Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I hope you're doing well. And I'm here with Joe. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm all right, Perch. How are you?
It's
Yeah.
it's been a very uneventful week.
No, it's a shame. You do these sort of things and you hope, you hit 15K subs. That's fantastic. But it's a shame it happened on a week where, there's really nothing to talk about.
Absolutely, yeah. Just we'll we have a guest coming. He will be here in just a moment. He's just getting home and getting all pulled in.
Yeah.
But we'll talk a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit of an awkward guest situation, but we'll explain why in a moment. So that'll be. We won't. Nobody in the chat. Let's not make it awkward for him because he's a good guy.
Yeah. So while we're waiting there,
Yeah.
what are you drinking tonight, Perch?
Well, I've got this out of order, so you'll see in the picture in a moment. But I am drinking Everclear.
Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh, that's something.
That's a choice. How about yourself?
Well, I found out that Smirnoff makes screwdrivers in a can.
Oh, excellent.
So,
All right.
I have been, uh, pouring orange juice into a glass of vodka like an idiot
Oh, sure.
this whole time, and I'm like, I could have just got it in a can.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
I've been making my own screwdrivers like a peasant.
So I am mixing Everclear with orange juice.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of with you. I mean, I'm trying to kind of match a little bit what you're doing. It's a terrible decision.
No, I mean this isn't great. I'm going to be honest with you. You know what? That's not fair. I haven't opened it yet. Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
The sound effect is what is needed.
Let's.
I love how Mumbles. By the way, you have perfectly carved out your place as my arch enemy. I love it.
All right. So.
Well, let's get this. So no, people are guessing in chat. He'll be here in a moment. So we have with us tonight, while you put this up, Troy Jeffrey Allen, who is part of Previews World, who is a great channel. It's on YouTube. You should go subscribe. It's like this show except competent. They do a good job. And it's really great. And of course, I've been going back and forth with Troy for a bit of time, and to get on the show because we had some things we wanted to talk about. So we thought nothing will happen this week that will make it kind of weird, given that you're related to Diamond. So, hey, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I guess we're just gonna drink.
Yeah, that's right. We're just gonna make it very. Yeah.
Oh, it is orangey.
Oh.
That can't all be natural flavors. That can't be. You're lying to me, Can. That's it's yeah, it's like with natural flavors. I'm sure it's not really ingredients on this can. I feel like Smirnoff can do better.
That seems like a mistake if they don't put ingredients on that can. That seems like something they should really have to do.
They should. There's caramel colors. That's sure.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to send you a case of whiskey, and then we're going to drink it on air.
I'm just going to keep drinking like lower and lower quality alcohol until you do. Like next time, it's just going to be like Natty Ice makes a margarita. And...
oh God. Yeah. I mean, every now and then, yeah, I'm traveling, and you go. Your liquor choices are what they're selling at the hotel, and that is with the bar closed and you've got the vending machine, and this is the kind of stuff that comes out. It's not good.
Yeah, no, it's it's not like those beer vending machines in Tokyo.
Yeah, exactly. I miss those machines. Those are wonderful. Yeah, like I said, Troy will be here in a moment, and we'll chat about a bunch of things, but try not to make it very awkward. Obviously, we don't want to. He can't talk about his situation right now, and it's all very strange. But before we go there, Joe, we passed final order cutoff for Beckstar, have we not?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it was yesterday was the final order cutoff. I think you can still pester people about it, why not? Please do. But yes.
Go get that reserved. You get all the purple lighting you want, which I'm going to just make that joke every.
Oh yeah, no, it's it's a very very bisexual lighting.
Yes,
that's
the entire book.
That's what we're here for. I believe that's what anyone's ever wanted. So
that's all comic books should be.
It's true. I don't know why. Do people? I mean,
fuck that regular guy.
Exactly. In all seriousness, though, do people like reading anything that you don't personally like to read? Because that's how every tweet reads. Is people getting like I feel like I'm on the outside of a joke because it just keeps getting close. Like it keeps getting more and more specific of people being like, I've always wanted a sci-fi Western werewolf romance comics with a talking shark and a thruple.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And it's always like, and then someone else chimes in and be like, dude, you read my mind. That's exactly what I want to read.
There's been more of that, hasn't there? Like, I mean, there has been way more the worst pitches in the world and the responses of like, I have absolutely no idea what I would do with that title, but please, I want it. Somebody give me a job.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's crazy. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but I've talked to professionals who were like, I really want to write this character of this book. I've never read it before. Like they just straight up have been like, I've never read it before, but I really want to write this because it sounds cool.
I don't get it. I don't get why that's a dream to do something like. I mean, it's clearly for the money, right? That's what it's all for. In other news, before we get to the other stuff, we're doing some mapping out. If you want to buy the Hellfire Gala, I believe it's going to cost you $90.
Oh God, that's
yeah,
that's great. Oh God, I read since I knew I was going to be on streams this week. I tried to read some comics that came out this week. I don't know how you people read comics. I read some comics this week.
What a terrible admission.
What is wrong with people? What are you doing? I read it was
a tough week.
This was a really bad. I read the Alien #1. The Cable #9, the Excalibur 24, and I read that Teen Titans Academy #1.
Oh yeah. And make a Harry Potter joke in that one.
That was this is a miserable nightmare. What is happening?
So for people in chat, some people are coming in here. I think I've established pretty clear. Fall of the Mutants is my favorite storyline, although I don't mind Inferno. I think that was some cool stuff that's going on in Inferno.
I'm glad you like Inferno because you're getting it again.
Yeah, I cannot wait. I'm getting Fall of the Mutants as well. It's just more in a meta sense for the entire line. But the Inferno. How did you like picking up Cable this week and seeing that they're torturing the one of the arch villains of Inferno by singing and playing kazoos at him?
I wasn't happy.
Fair enough.
I read that whole issue and I'm like, what's wrong with everybody? It was so that whole what's happening? What is happening? I'm like, I don't get it.
You've seen that movie Brewster's Millions before, right?
Not recently, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the premise there, like you're given some money, but you've got to just blow it in the stupidest ways possible in order to get more money. Do you think maybe that's what's going on? We'll get Troy in here and he'll be confused.
But there is no money.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah.
Hey Troy, you're just coming in, but thank you for joining us here tonight.
Hey, what's up, Perch? How's it going, man? Sorry I'm a little late.
No problem at all.
I actually went into the office today, which was actually very rare right now, and I got a little excited and left took a little long to leave. So
hey, you get out of the house, that is a great place.
It really is. It's weird. It's very weird to go to work and feel like I'm away from everybody right now. This is great.
I never want to be home again. No, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on. I thought so we're going over kind of what we're drinking here. Joe's got something absolutely terrible. I'm drinking Everclear. Are you the sane one of the three of us?
You know what? I got a weird combination going on right now. I knew that you were going to have booze on the show, but I'm a little tired, so I kind of figured, you know what? Let me not drink because then I might start getting a little sluggish. So I have a combination of coffee, A&W root beer, and bottled water.
All right.
You just don't mix all those together, and you're in good shape.
I may be. We'll see.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us. But it's been a quiet week, right? Nothing major happening?
Oh, no, nothing major happened at all. It's all just, sunshine and rainbows over here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the big news that happened this week that we're all dancing around, I'm just going to come out and say it, the passing of Jessica Walter.
No.
Actually, that is unfortunate, actually. Yeah. I was like, I don't know her from everything, but I do definitely know her from Arrested Development. And I was like, oh, man.
She was the mom in Dinosaurs.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's very sad. Her character that's the one that's closest to me in Arrested Development. So
yeah, she's hilarious in Arrested Development. Yeah.
I constantly make that how much could a banana cost $10 joke.
Yeah.
Just all that kind of stuff. But she's also tied to the greater Marvel universe because she was the villain. Was it Morgane in the Doctor Strange made for TV movie?
Yes, back in the
back in the 70s.
Late 70s, yeah.
Oh wow, okay, I didn't realize that.
She is MCU bound right there. Yeah, that is that. So we'll do this because everybody there's already a lot of questions in the chat, and not to make it awkward for Troy, let me just do this.
Yeah.
Get it all out Troy can't. So again, I want to stress Troy has got he's on a wonderful channel over there with Previews World. You should go check it out. Like I said, it's comics, it's what's coming out, and it's done by competent people who aren't drinking Everclear. You should definitely go check it out. It's a really good show you have over there.
I mean, maybe we should start though. I don't know.
I usually listen to Everclear instead of drinking.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, all right. So, as people have been asking, yes, obviously the news, Penguin Random House. Note the answers here. Don't know is the key answer for all these questions. We're going to find out in the weeks to come. The one part that's keen is Random House didn't buy Marvel. So just to be clear, they didn't buy Marvel. They're not going to come in there and change there's a number of questions. Will Penguin Random House fire San Amanat? That is not the role that they play in this.
Wait, is that what people are saying, that they think Penguin Random House bought Marvel?
There's a lot of confusion, I think, about what's exactly going on there. They don't actually have ownership over Marvel. That is the key takeaway here.
No.
But a number of things being figured out.
So weird.
It is strange. No, it is very, very odd. We're going to find out. It's October. There's a lot that's going to be decided, and we will see. And also, no, I think the odds of Steve Geppi buying DC is also very low. So
actually, I saw something today. Look, guys, I'm sure Ethan Van Sciver knows a lot of things, but he doesn't know everything. Stop believing everything he says. For God's sake.
Is that the source of the Steve Geppi rumor?
There's some rumor. There was a Bleeding Cool article that referenced a Cosmic Book News article. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, that's
even worse than Bleeding Cool. There was a Cosmic Book News article that referenced something Ethan Van Sciver said in the message board of the Bleeding Cool website about Robert Kirkman buying DC.
Oh my God, that's way too many.
Yeah,
This is way too much silliness right there.
It's the inception of stupidity. Like it's just
that's a lot of inception right there.
There's a lot of inception.
when you're a news site and you're trolling another news site's message boards for your news, you are absolutely on the wrong track, I think, at that point.
So I mean, look, the only thing I can say, I guess, is like, look, plenty of publishers have 2 distributors, and now so does Marvel.
That's true.
So there you go.
Well, I don't know. I think knowing Disney Publishing has been using this forever. I mean, the big mystery here is why it took so long, I would say.
Yeah. But I was also thinking, because now after I made that Everclear joke, I just want to keep making music-related jokes. So since this is all happening in October, I was going to say, wake me up when September ends.
I'm with it. I like bad jokes. Like, everybody thinks whenever someone tells a bad joke on our show, our production manager. So we do the show called Previous World Weekly. It's every Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, on Previous World's YouTube and Facebook, and Free Comic Book Days Facebook as well. And our production manager makes these horrible jokes all the time. Like, he'll cut into the conversation and make bad jokes. Our guests make bad jokes too. I think bad jokes are hilarious. Like, they call them dad jokes now, but these were the things that, like, Leslie Nielsen used to say in Naked Gun movies. I used to think was absolutely hilarious. So there's no generational divide on this for me. It's just it's comedy.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And if you kids haven't seen Police Squad, go watch Police Squad.
Oh man, I still crack up at that stuff. Like,
I love the joke at the end of the episodes where everyone would freeze, but like one guy.
Yeah.
and he would just be completely confused as to why everything else stopped.
Yeah. I think that stuff is hilarious. Like, all that Zaz, all that stuff. Like, I think someone mentioned Austin Powers to me the other week, and I was like, what? I think the first movie is so hilarious. Like, I still think it's funny. So, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bad jokes.
That is definitely worth checking out. But anyway, we'll see. The key here is we're going to see what happens in the weeks to come. Lots to figure out.
Does one of us have the YouTube channel playing in the background, because I'm hearing an echo?
There might be a little bit of an echo. It's not me, so
I've got my headset on, so no. I'm not,
same thing here. Whatever, it's fine.
Okay. I'm actually not hearing the echo. So I don't know.
Weird.
Now it's suddenly much better. So I don't know.
Cool.
Everybody will tell us in the chat like in 2 minutes when everything catches up. So
it
will be fine. Anyway, all right. Well, so on to some other stuff. So try this is obviously something you do. We get through this kind of at the beginning every time. Titles coming out next week. The hell of it is that we've had to go to 4 pages here for next week, because normally I can fit this on 3, but now we're into 4.
Oh, okay.
So first off, I just wanted to ask, anything yourself or Joe, anything that you guys are excited about as we go through here? The things you're definitely going to pick up, you want?
Let me look. Here's the thing. I wouldn't say I'm excited about anything I'm looking at here, except that number 1, Black Mask Comics, Destiny New York #1 is coming out. Pat Shand, who, by the way, Perch, we should probably talk to Pat at some point. I think Pat Shand's a great guy. He's been like a Kickstarter beast. He kickstarts like 3-4 comics a year. He's done a dozen or so. They always meet goal. He always gets them out. He's cultivated a really strong following, but no one talks about him. They talk about all these other crowdfunders, but this is a guy who, he makes 5 figures on all his campaigns, and he keeps hustling. He keeps putting books out. And, Black Mask made this deal with him because they had published him before, to take the Destiny books and break them up into like chapters as floppies to distribute through Diamond now. So we got that going on. So that I already have all the Destiny stuff, but for people who aren't familiar, check out what Pat Shand's doing. And then I'll also throw in Ahoy. Ahoy's great. They put out some quality stuff, and I'll end with I've never read Zombie Tramp, but I admire the hell out of it for still going.
Yeah. No, it does keep going. We may see a little bit of that later in a moment, but I don't know. Troy, anything on here that you?
I'm actually on our website taking a look at this stuff right now, and we got the full list of stuff. And you know what? I know the Beta Ray Bill book by Daniel Warren Johnson is dropping next week.
Nice. Sure.
I'm definitely curious about that. Let's see here. Symbiote Spider-Man, I'm actually subscribed to that. Just because I like Peter David. It's just my safe, warm place. Like if Peter David's writing it, I just feel like I'm going to enjoy it regardless. And also it's just like a throwback because they're going back to the 80s Spider-Man comics, but they're weaving it into the King in Black, which is kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. I know some people in your audience aren't big on the Hickman X-Men. But I'm still with it. I'm still hanging in there because in Hickman I trust. He dragged me through. He dragged me all the way from Avengers and Fantastic Four to Secret War. So I'm willing. And I was happy that he did. So I'm with that. I need to follow up on X-Men Legends because I actually have the first issue and have not read it yet.
Okay.
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
And I was just co-signing whatever Joe just said about what Joe just said about Ahoy. Like they make some pretty cool stuff, man. I think I got to interview Tom Payer and Stuart Moore at Baltimore Comic-Con a few years ago. Nice. And I was ashamed to admit I didn't know who they were until after the fact. And then I realized, like, oh my God, this guy like was an editor of Vertigo. He wrote The Authority. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, these are all things that I was into. I just never, for whatever reason, didn't lock his name into my head, And so ever since then, like every time I pick up, especially a Tom Payer book, I'm all for it. Like I loved Wrong Earth. That was a lot of fun. And he did this other book called, oh man, I'm about to blank on it right now. It's not Danger 5. What is that book called? It was like this comedy book that he did about this team of would-be do-gooders, but it was all very satirical, very Adult Swim-like, and it was absolutely hilarious. And I can't remember what that book was called. I'm going to find that book. I'll get back to
you. #Danger.
#Danger. There you go. Yes, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
But no, they're great. I love them. Tom Pyre always says too, in terms of his DC work. If people want to read that, he recommends his Dr. Fate run. He really likes what he did with that book. You can't get it collected because collections are shit and no one collects anything. We all think everything gets collected, but it doesn't.
It doesn't.
No. So try to find that.
Yeah. How about crossover? That had like an enormous amount of hype, and now we're on issue 4, and it's the buzz is far lower than it was. Are you both hearing the same thing?
It's interesting. Like crossover had a really cool concept.
Yeah.
And I read the first issue. I have not followed up on assisting because it's kind of one of those things like I'll wait and trade to see. I think we talked about this before when I was on your show, Perch. Like mystery boxes, right? We were talking about this. I think we were talking about this before. That the J.J. Abrams, M. Night Shyamalan, Christopher Nolan thing, where the entire point of the book hinges on what happens at the end, the big twist, and like finding out how this all comes together. And I'm just kind of exhausted by that. Bendis does that a lot, which is kind of exhausting.
For sure.
And so Cates is kind of doing it here. And like, well, I like the idea of what crossover was doing in issue 1. It was one of those things where it kind of made me go, okay, I'll wait till it gets in trade and read it. Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of what I think. I feel like that's my default with mystery box. I'll call them stories,
I think that's a reasonable way to go about it. I think it's definitely overused as a trope at this point. And it's a crossover seemed like it was going to have a challenge because its premise that it wants to bring you that we've got all the superheroes, they can never fully deliver on that premise. I mean, at the end of the day, they're not going to give you everything. Yeah.
I was actually kind of half expecting some Image characters to show up in here, but I don't see that happening.
No, it seems like a lot less. I thought the Kirkman Skybound stuff would be possible, but that doesn't really seem to be happening. It's odd. I don't know. It's been surprising to me. But the buzz is definitely down. A lot of these books that launched with a huge amount of hype in the first issue is just they have. I don't know. They're struggling a little bit to, I think, find attention. So.
Yeah. I think it's a real thing, and sometimes those books are just perfectly fine. Like, I mean, they're like solid books, and what's the saying? Great is the enemy of good. Sometimes with comic books, like they don't have to be great; they just have to be solid and make you want to kind of stick with these characters month to month.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of books that are like that, but it's like there's that big marketing push up front, and then it's just sort of like, okay, we're on to the next thing. I think that's kind of the problem with like all these event, and even the indie books are kind of guilty of this too now. This event focused mentality of how we market comics now. Like, it's like it was funny. I was on eBay late at night, should not have been looking for comics for my collection.
Sure.
And I came across, I think it was Silver Surfer number 75. And it's like this, I think it's 75, or it might be 50, but it was like an anniversary issue. And I just missed the days when like the anniversary issue was an event, and it might not have been everything. It might not have been earth shattering, it might not have been, but you just got more story, and that was why it was an event. You know what I mean? Like there was like 60 pages instead of 30, had a cool cover, and it was just special because it was a milestone issue because they had hit another 25 issues. And like, that enough was a reason to celebrate. And I kind of miss those days. Like I kind of feel like comics, they need to find excuses to do events within their book instead of like trying to like pull everything in from other titles or
completely
or quote unquote breaking the internet. Like whatever's going to break the internet, that's the event. And it's like, sometimes sometimes I'm fine with Spider-Man fights Dr. Octopus again, like, and that's the event.
Yeah, because you don't need to build something false. And it just, not everything can be an event. It can just be,
right.
How about Spawn? And as Spawn's there, people on the channel said I don't give it nearly enough love. Obviously, it boosted sales. He's doing a shared universe. Have you heard about, for both of you, have you heard a lot of buzz about Spawn?
Yeah. I think people are genuinely excited. I actually did an interview with Todd McFarlane like about 3 weeks ago, right on the heels of him announcing it at Comics Pro, and he's actually the exception to what I just said. Like this is what he does. Like he does this very well, which is like he's excited about his book, and he wants you to be excited about the book. And therefore, he treats any issue that he can as an event. And that's cool.
How about you, Joe? Have you kept up with Spawn, or we don't talk about Spawn very much?
No, we don't. I haven't really kept up with it. I love Todd. I think we should talk about Todd on Spider-Man. Maybe talk with someone who worked with Todd at the time.
We should do that. We should interview somebody like that.
We should interview like a David McElhenney or Jim Salicrup or someone like that.
Yeah,
or Danny Fingeroth.
Danny Fingeroth. Well, Danny Fingeroth. It was Eric Larson by then.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah, but no.
It really seems like a miss that we haven't interviewed somebody like that.
Yeah, no, we're gonna have to rectify that soon. But I read early Spawn and sporadically here and there. The interesting thing with Spawn, even with the hype and even with coming back, I hear a lot of people just be like a generic, like, oh, that's cool. Spawn's still going. And it's like, oh, do you like what's going on? It's like, Spawn.
All right.
There isn't like a lot of like, oh man, this storyline's like blowing my mind. You're like, oh my God, they brought in this. And it's never a conversation like that. It's just sort of generic, like, yeah, it's cool. Spawn.
Well, he's going to get some hype on a, maybe he does need this kind of Kickstarter moment, and maybe this Spawnverse doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, but I kind of feel like that's always been Spawn. You know what I mean? Like, it's always been like an art-driven book.
Sure.
It's always been less about like, ooh, this is happening in the story, and more about like, oh, this looks cool, So
yeah,
it's
always been gimmick-driven. Even when you hire people like Frank Miller, Neil Gaiman, Grant Morrison to do stories for you, that was the gimmick. The gimmick was. Look at these insane writers and artists and whatnot we're working with on this book. I'll give it credit that it was probably, as far as I know, in those early Image days, it was putting out books at a higher click than some of the others that were kind of stumbling out the gate. And that Todd recognized let me hire these kind of big writers and stuff like that to work on it. And then other people in the studios kind of, I feel like they copied that from Todd after he was successful at doing that. A lot of people copied Todd after he was successful. I mean, let's be real. But if y'all ever get a chance, go on the YouTube and look it up. There's like Todd doing this like QVC thing for like Spawn comics or whatever, like back in like the early 90s. And it's like Todd there, and it's like, it's this like collector's box. And you get he might have still been at Marvel. Like it might have been Spider-Man. I'm trying to think of what it was, but it's this whole like it's like 10 minutes of like Todd on like QVC selling comics. It's amazing.
That's hilarious. I was a 90s kid, man. So I definitely had begged my mom to like purchase like these special editions and these jumbo packs from QVC. So yeah. I mean, I was my first Spawn comics were the comics that came with the action figures. Oh, okay, nice.
Like, I was a kid at the time, and I'm in like elementary school or whatever it is. I was like, oh, that looks cool, and I'll read the comic that comes with it, and playing the Super Nintendo game and all that. That's that Super Nintendo game is it's not too bad. It's holds up all right.
Okay.
We had this question for both of you real quick. The chat is very anxious to know what happened to the Dynamite covers. But before we get there, why? So for Troy, yourself and Joe, why hasn't Hellboy become a top seller? Why do you think it's had a movie? It's had a bunch of. I mean, it's one of those brands. But why do you think that one hasn't? You got.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Mignola has always been like more of an artist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people that talk about how much they love Mike's art tend to be like other artists and people really into comics. I don't think his art and his style has that same kind of like mainstream appeal that some other artists have. So I think that's part of it.
No, I think Mignola is like I agree with you, Joe. I think he's niche, and that's part of the appeal. Like I feel like the minute Hellboy becomes actually like would become popular, it's not cool anymore. It's like it has to be one of those kind of fringe things for it to really resonate with a certain type of audience. And truthfully, it's only a certain type of audience would like Hellboy, to be honest.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, and I love niche things, and I think Perch will agree with me. Like,
oh, I love that book. I love that art.
Yeah, no, I love that stuff. I love that kind of art. I love Twin Peaks. That's never going to be a Michael Bay kind of feature. Although now that I say this, I kind of want to see Michael Bay direct a Twin Peaks movie.
I'd like to see a Michael Bay Twin Peaks and a David Lynch James Bond.
Yes.
I'd like to see a David Lynch Transformers.
Oh my God!
He wouldn't get any Transformers. He would just there'd be monkeys and detectives and like,
right.
Yeah.
Or Dario Argento's Transformers would be pretty great.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that'd be weird.
Let's get that to happen.
Let's get that to happen. No, I just did our last show of Previous World Weekly. We had the documentarians, the filmmakers behind this Mignola documentary that's getting on Kickstarter right now. And that was actually a fun episode. Like we talked to them for an hour. We just made them part of the show. They made picks for the week and they engaged with the audience and audience conversations. And it was actually really cool. And to your point, he really is an artist because the people they interviewed, it was like, Rebecca Sugar from like Steven Universe and Neil Gaiman. And, like that's just, again, he's just niche. Like, and there's nothing, and I mean, truthfully, like comics are niche, you know what I mean? So it's like, to be a niche, it's like, it's perfect for that.
Yeah. Didn't he, Perch, I feel like I may have heard this from Jim Salicrup, who we should talk to at some point.
Oh, we should talk to him at some point,
But didn't Mignola end up consulting or meeting with Coppola for that Dracula movie?
Yeah, I believe I have heard that story as well. I don't know where we heard that story.
There was I think Dynamite, or maybe it was Dynamite, re-released it recently. There was an adaptation by Mignola, and I want to say Roy Thomas or Jerry Conway.
They're kind of interchangeable.
Right, yeah. But Roy Thomas and Jerry Conway, they did an adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Coppola movie. So that actually came up on our recent episode, which was actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody's been waiting patiently. Hello, Nerdette, and by the way, hello everybody who's come to the chat. Thank you for joining us. And so, if you're here for the first time, you haven't been here for a while, you might be confused by this next bit, but this is what a lot of people show up for. So, Dynamite. Here's our Dynamite for next week, which is actually more tame next week.
They have great covers. I will never say that about Dynamite. The covers are great.
This is actually a lot tamer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. I appreciate this. Is a good gag there. Thank you. You murdered that guy. Yes, there.
Well done. Well done.
I like how Dynamite, they know what they do. They know what they've got, and they just they stick to what works. Right?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know what? Even they had, I think, a period where they were kind of like, well, this bad girl thing might be going out of fashion. Let's try to cover up Vampirella a little bit, but it didn't last long. And they had that moment where they were like, nope, this isn't us, and they pivoted really fast off of that, and we're back here again. And you know what? Look, whatever.
Well, not only are we back here again, but others have entered the chat as well. So it's we hear all this stuff that like comic books are very puritanical. This is all next week. Coffin, Ablaze, Xenoscope, Action Lab, Black Mass, they're all bringing something.
That Zombie Tramp, it's really it's hanging in there.
Yeah, Zombie Tramp hangs in there.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, it's always interesting to me because we had this seemingly endless phase where people were like, oh, the SJWs are taking this away and SJWs are taking that away.
It's there.
But yeah, I mean, look, if you look at the back half of the catalog, you probably would have every reason not to worry at all. Like once you get to a certain point in the catalog, it's like, no, there's definitely a cheesecake element. There's definitely a ultra violence element that's within comics that's never going to go away. And MC Gaines would be very happy. So there you go.
Yeah,
I do think people in some cases, and I get it, but maybe you're looking in the wrong places. You do have to go further back in the catalog, because if you stop at Marvel and DC, then you're not going to get this. But if you are looking for what Action Labs is putting out, they are there. Action Labs is they've got a lot of comics out, and danger.
Yeah, and that poor dog on that rocket in the logo.
Yeah,
I don't know if that dog's gonna make it. That might be a one-way ticket. That rocket.
Pandering to the audience. That's what I do.
Well, that's also. I don't know if any of you have seen the SNL skit "Rocket Dog" with Tracy Morgan, but it's phenomenal. I don't think it's even on YouTube. I think you have to look at the video because it was taken down for copyright stuff. But if you want to have a good time later after you watch Todd on QVC. Watch that Rocket Dog skit. It's very funny.
Oh, absolutely. What's going on with the Ablaze title there? Those two, the two men have shrunk down and are diving into her cleavage. Is that what we take away from that?
That's that book. I forget what the book is called. It's called Sacred. Oh man, I'm gonna butcher. Unsacred, something like that.
/sacred or something like that.
Yeah. No, and Ablaze is actually doing some really cool stuff. Actually, I got to give them credit. They came out guns a-blazing with this Die Hard Vampire book by Charlie Adler. And they've been dropping really interesting, cool, high quality stuff. They have this book called Gung Ho, which looks great. They're interesting, and there is a range, and this is just one element of what they publish, which is this book is a little cheesecakey, but they have all this other cool stuff that they do too.
I like how on Lady Death or Coffin Comics they put the word naughty just to make it clear. That this black bar is naughty. So
the important thing here too, because I try to be educational here when I can be for people that don't know the Ablaze cover there. That particular kink that's being displayed is macrophilia. Just so you're all aware.
The more you know.
Yeah.
I want to accuse you of making that up, but it's probably not. There's probably a cat.
I wish I didn't know that.
The Xenoscope title looks like they're borrowing from some of Beckstar's bisexual lighting there as well.
Well, there are some people out there that would say that everyone's bi. I think they're narcissists, but
Well, all right. We'll disappoint everybody. Hey, meanwhile, on page
Just
3,
like a bisexual, you disappoint everybody.
we go from there to Biden's Titans. Here's our third list. Again,
Is this Keen Spot?
anything-
It has to be Keen Spot, right?
the
Yep,
what?
yes, it is. It's a Keen Spot. I was like, is this Keen Spot the Biden's Titans? And it was.
Oh yeah. Anything on here for you, Joe?
Oh, I hate this. Let me see here. Source Point Press does some decent stuff. I'll also say Vault as a Vault shill. I do have to say Autumnal is that's a good one. I enjoy that. I'm not just saying that because there's a She Said Destroy reference in the second issue, but that's a good one. Autumnal. It's a fun time. I also have to be a shill for Mad Cave Studios. So Terminal Punks. It's wrapping up, folks. Get in while you can. That's Matthew Ehrman and Shelby Crisby.
Okay.
It's fun. There's punks. There's apes at an airport. I don't want to give too much away. I might be saying that because maybe I don't completely understand it, and that's my way of hiding that. But
I think that's accurate, actually. I think yeah.
And then, but yeah, my God, Source Point, like, what are you guys doing? You're putting out more comics than all of these others combined.
They put out that's all they're putting out this month. They put it out all on the last day, just all at once.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? That might actually be kind of smart.
Yeah, just one time off it goes. Why does Biden's Titans tell us make anime great again?
Who
like
knows?
why?
I know I shouldn't be shady, but I just these political comics are just so out of control, though.
I hate them,
and I don't even mean that the way that people always mean it. Like I
can't. I feel it's so corny. And it just, I can't, no matter, I don't care what it is. I just go like, I can't, this is like, I feel.
Well, I do appreciate, I think Tim Lim put some thought into it. I think he's trying to make more than just a parody, but I don't know. Biden's Titans make anime great again. I have no idea what they're even doing there. It's very strange, but. Anyway.
And Biden would call it Japanimation. Let's be honest here.
I want to bring back Japanimation. I don't know.
Right? Like, where did that go? You kids, you don't understand it. When there used to be the anime versus Japanimation arguments, and anime won.
Nobody wants Biden hentai. You iron. Nobody wants that. And then finally, it feels like a slog for page 4. DC is putting out very little next week. It is that kind of 5th week of the month, so it's not terribly unusual for them. But why is Future State Superman #3 coming out well after all Future State's over?
Yeah, I was about to say, didn't it all wrap up?
I don't understand what's going on here with that. This book, Superman Imperious Selects, it has an audience. I think the people who like the writing, it's for them. But could they? Is it late? Why? But it's not late. I think this is when they intended it to come out.
It has to be late. Like the whole line's done. Like until they decide to do something else with it. Well, I guess they are going to do something else with it. But interesting.
It's strange.
Boom's really riding out that Power Rangers money, huh?
Oh yeah.
That's you got that. You got
Well, it's in there twice. Sorry.
Well, there's Mighty Morphin and there's Power Rangers, and then I guess there's Unlimited now, and until I can't really see that.
Yeah.
Until there is darkness or something like that. Was it?
Yeah.
Until Unlimited Heir to Darkness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
yeah.
So someone tweet at Boom about how problematic Joss is, though? They're still putting out Firefly comics. I thought when I tweet about how I'm angry about something that it goes away.
They may not have tagged Boom, so people should get on that. Go harass Boom. Do not.
Do not actually do.
Not. That is a joke. That's Everclear. Do not go harass Boom.
But
that's Everclear talking.
Yeah, that's the Everclear talking. Don't go harass everybody. That's what. Yeah, boy, in about a half an hour, I'm going to be really salty.
Yeah, but no, these are
Beta Ray Bill. I'm looking forward to seeing Beta Ray Bill. I think that could be good.
I'm currently working through Simonson's Thor run because I want to read Dan Jurgens' Thor run, and I wanted to refresh myself with Simonson's first. I got the idea from when we interviewed Glenn Greenberg, which is available on Comics by Perch in the interviews section. Go look it up. It's crazy. But when he was talking about Dan Jurgens' Thor, I was like, you know what? I'm going to dive into that and read the whole thing. But first, I'm going to get back in a Thor mood with some, Walt Simonson Thor. I've been spending my nights reading that while listening to Blind Guardian, and it's been a pretty nice time.
So wait. I'm sorry, you lost me for a second. Which Glenn Greenberg did you interview?
Glenn Greenberg was the assistant editor. He was an assistant editor and then associate editor at Marvel in the 90s.
Okay, all right. There's a political pundit by the name of Glenn Greenberg too, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
there
is. And if you're getting art for that interview and you're not careful, you will render it first with the wrong person.
Yeah,
it
happened.
Like a big idiot is what I do. So a lot here. So as well, this is kind of how it shakes out. 94 new comics next week of this list, and I think there's some others that aren't on it. 30 publishers. Marvel 11 copies. IDW is putting out more than Marvel next week, and 27 of those 94 issues are #1 issues. 4 from Marvel, meaning 36, about a third of everything they're putting out is a #1 issue. So
I hate that.
just saying. I don't know. So Troy, you look through all these. Have you seen, like, is this too many comics a week, or what do you make of it?
I think we've talked about this before. I do think that there's definitely an approach that I think it might be overdoing it, and I think that we've passed that point quite a few times.
Yeah.
It's interesting, it's like you almost want to tell, like, you kind of want to be like, okay guys, stop, but like nobody's going to listen to that, right? Like they're trying to flood the shelves, and like they're trying to take up as much real estate as humanly possible. But yeah, I think there is a lot of comics, and I think that there's too many of them, and but it's about supply. I was about to say it's about supply and demand, but sometimes that's not even true, to be honest.
It's hard to just find them. I mean, the challenge is, as a retailer, that you run out of energy, and it's not just the retailers who are drinking, Everclear. It's the normal people too. You give up at some point, and then you just kind of rely on your customers to come tell you what to order, and it's a problem. So I put it this way: this is way too small, but this is what it breaks down looking, because it's fun with graph. So nice little chart. But one last thing, Yen Press is putting out quite a lot next week. This is next week, and this is, people ask about some of the manga stuff. This is still more. Not only they have a lot of material coming out, but these are some of the craziest, funniest titles I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah, I love anime titles. Manga titles. They're like ridiculous.
That time I was reincarnated as a slime. I mean, come on, you gotta. Can't Stop Cursing. That would be the #1 book for Marvel if they put that out there. This is Do You Love Your Mom and Her 2-Hit Multi-Target Attacks.
I've never even heard of that before, but now I want to know more about it.
Reborn as a polar bear. It seems very quaint in compared to Lust Gas.
Yeah. Or Lust Geese.
I don't. I'm betting it has something to do with her shirt coming off.
Maybe.
That's all I know.
Yeah. No, it's hilarious. It took me a while to realize that the reason our manga titles are like this is because these titles are being very literally translated.
Yes.
Into English. And once I realized that, I was just like, okay, like it's not just me. It's just a lost in translation sort of thing. But it actually does make for some very amusing titles.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think this is. There's some good stuff, and if you go over to Japan, you go to the airport, they have learned this trick that Americans like to buy the crazy translation shirts, and so they'll sell things with these insane, just very literal translation words, and you can wear them around. It's amazing. So
Yeah.
Anyway,
I still feel bad that I was one of the only people in my group that didn't buy a Gas Panic shirt when I was in Tokyo.
Yeah. Well, that felt like an awkward bar just to go into. So
yeah, it was pretty awkward.
Gas Panic. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to throw this up there. This isn't a perfect list, but Troy, we were talking, and Joe and I have talked about this a lot. It kind of gets to the heart of some of what we want to talk about today, which is comics. I mean, to lead in, I think comics has had a very long past. Obviously, a lot of different creators in it, a lot of people who have contributed in pretty major ways. But it feels like they almost reset the clock every 10 years or so, and we're in this place now where there were a lot of really cool writers and artists and storylines and concepts that by and large get forgotten, and they want to go take credit for it again. I saw this article recently saying how proud Marvel and DC were for hiring women writers like in the last 10 years, and it's
interesting.
I mean, come on, how do you come on? Weezy was doing this a long time ago. Why do these things get erased?
It's I think you and our exchange really boiled down to like, this really does piss me off a lot, and it does the same for me. Like, I think there's two ways to kind of, I think, to look at this, right? You made a very good point. Actually, I want to give you a huge shout out, Perch, because you made a very good point about Occam's razor in one of your videos not too long ago. I live by that. Like, that is my entire thing. I remember the first time I heard that actually was Lisa Simpson saying it on the Simpsons. And it made me look it up as a kid, and it made so much sense to me because there's, you could look at this scenario as, stupid people being stupid, right? Or you can look at them being malicious. And when I say stupid, like, I want to be clear, it's more like just a willful ignorance or a disinterest in learning about the history of this industry, or a bias, about the history towards the history of the industry. Like, I think that there's definitely people who have a grift, right? And their grift is, I'll be honest with you, and their grift is, I am the first XYZ, and that's their entire thing. And like, truthfully, I don't think those people have a lot of long legs in this industry. Like, I feel like the industry kind of chews them up and spits them out like within 2 years. But they do suck up a lot of air. And part of the problem with that is they talk over the people whose shoulders they clearly stand on. And it really bugs me when these grifters come into the industry, and their entire shtick is banking on the fact that they're a unicorn of some sort. And then the audience, the fans, the people in the fans have been reading for a long time. The fans know these creators. They know them by face. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the fans are like, no, that's not true. And then it becomes an argument from that point on, because it becomes about, you're insulting my intelligence, or you're marginalizing me, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not on camera right now, but I'm a black man, and I find it jarring and insulting and dangerous when people do this, and then when corporations, and it gets really dangerous when the corporations support them in this because they want the brownie points for it. And it's also just gross, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think this leads into, like, I think a larger conversation about just the revisionist history that comics kind of goes through, which I think is what you were kind of leaning towards every couple of years. Like, and some of that I think has to do with the nature of how comics treat talent. Let's be honest here.
Sure.
That's definitely part of it. But it also has a lot to do with our current pop culture landscape and how everything's about, hot takes and, like, how quickly you can suck up the air in a conversation, whether you're right or wrong. And what happens is, I think the end result is, nothing is actually learned, and like no one's ever actually being educated about the history of this industry or the history of anything, really. So
Yeah.
Well, it feels like when they say we stand on the shoulders of giants, it feels like, and we're flooding that room. So pretty soon they're all going to be underwater, and it's just us that people get seen.
Yeah.
I get really irritated with this, Joe. I know you do too. So what do you think, Joe?
No, I mean, and today it got worse for me because I watched Falcon Winter Soldier episode 2, and I was furious.
Oh, really?
Because they introduced
Was Isaiah Bradley?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And go see if you can find a copy of Truth.
Yeah.
You can't. It's not available anywhere. Yeah, if you're willing to pay $150 on like Amazon, you can get it, or you can go back issue diving. But that's disgusting. This is the most they were going to make on this, unless they did like a full blown miniseries. And we're close to. It'll be next month, a couple of weeks or so. It's going to be the 8th anniversary of the passing of Bob Morales.
Mm-hmm.
And to do this, to not have it available, to not even try. And you know what? Kyle Baker's alive and kicking. Right. I bet he would have loved a few bucks from a high selling book. And you know, it's disgusting to me. It's absolutely disgusting. Well, and I there's no excuse.
Well, I'll go a step further with that, man. Like look, Rick Remender and Stuart Immonen did a great 6-issue arc of Falcon as Captain America.
Sure.
And I love that run. It's a gorgeous run. It's a fun story. But the problem was that, like, the talking point, and it wasn't coming from Remender. It wasn't coming from, and you know, truthfully, I can't even really say that it was necessarily even coming from Marvel, but it was coming from a lot of these other websites that just want to be the first to say something. That's all that matters to them. Was that finally, and now the attitude was like, well, Captain America is black now. And it's like, no, like, like there's been literally 2 characters who have like at least taken on the moniker or adjacent to Captain America that were black. Mm-hmm. Like this is nothing new. And a matter of fact, this is kind of normal for comics. And I got more bad news for you guys. Iron Man's been black before. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like Captain Marvel has been black before. Like, you know, it's just kind of gross. Like there's just an aspect of this, and I'm never quite sure whose feet I can lay the blame at, but it's irritating when people do that, and then they want to argue with you about it, which is the other worst part about it.
Yeah, well, and you know, also with this, like they're mining a lot of Grunwald stuff, and he passed almost 25 years ago, and that's a shame. He doesn't get to see any of this, but there were a lot of people pushing back, like oddly, before Falcon and Winter Soldier came out. Like it's not just going to be Grunwald's run. They're going to use a lot from Remender's run and stuff like that. They aren't. It's all Grunwald's run, and this second episode reaffirmed that it's that run. And if you want to get now, and they introduced the Power Broker and stuff like that, that trade is also out of print, where they introduced Flag Smasher and Power Broker. It's like, what are you guys doing? It was out of print before the episode aired.
Yeah. Well, it's aggravating because I mean, so my own personal irritation here. So I was collecting comics in the 80s, being very into it, getting those books. I felt like I was reading a wide range of stories and ideas. I don't feel like I was reading just a white male centered universe. I felt like I had a black Iron Man. I had the Falcon. I had Captain Marvel, who was Monica Rambeau. I had lots of different characters, lots of diversity. I thought I was getting a lot of different comics and stories and ideas, and I enjoyed being part of that. So I do resent it when 20 years later, people point back to that era and go, "Oh, well, that comic shops were gross. They were just for old white dudes, and you know, the comics were definitely unenlightened back then, and now we're making them good." It's like, fuck you. It's just it makes me really crazy.
And to further that point too, I mean, they also don't try to educate people. Like there's no effort to push these books, let people know who some of these creators and characters were. I mean, I had to find out myself, for example, that Matt Baker was a black man who did arguably the first graphic novel over, what was it? It's over 70 years ago. you know, and that he was an artist on, you know, the Golden Age Phantom Lady and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, a lot of people throw around stuff today about how, oh, we don't like, you know, like characters like, you know, like they'll throw around like Luke Cage, for example, and be like, oh, you know, that it sucks because he was only written by and illustrated and stuff by white guys until very recently, and it's like that's news to Billy Graham.
Yeah, no,
you know, so someone should you know, he's since passed, but it's like that's news to him because he worked on that book for a year and a half from the beginning. So,
and you know, it's really interesting to me too because I talked with someone about this recently. Like, in a weird way, comic books had this thing where like it taught me to appreciate history, and so it taught me to kind of like exist in the present, but also to look backwards to kind of connect the dots. And it's an interesting like thing that like I feel if you're a kid, like is actually like an important lesson to learn that subconsciously comic books used to do to you as an adolescent. And I mean that by, and what I mean by that is, you know, if I wanted to find out who this character was, I had to go back 20 issues, maybe even 20 years to find out who that character was. Like I had to connect the dots in the relationship between the title character and the supporting character. Like, you know what I mean? And it's interesting to me because I've realized like now as an adult, how much that shaped my concept of history and how our present connects to our past. And it's really kind of disturbing how, and again, I don't know who to lay the blame at, whose feet I have to lay this blame at, but like and I feel maybe there's a lot of blame to go around, to be honest. But like,
I do think it's a lot of blame to go around.
But I think it's interesting that like I feel like comics in the last couple of years have kind of walled off anything that happened 5 or 10 years ago, 5 or 10 years ago prior, and it's all about what's happening now. And I think that supports what you were saying, Joe, earlier about like the lack of trade paperbacks, and you know, like how that seems to be kind of like really only a thing that that publishers really push when like maybe there's a connecting media opportunity, maybe.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned Billy Graham because I remember a few years ago, I did a Black Panther retrospective where I talked to a bunch of creators, and you know, of course, Billy Graham has passed away, but I actually ended up kind of falling down this Billy Graham rabbit hole and falling in love with his like amazing, like these amazing splash pages that he used to do, and then finding out that he drew Vampirella. Like, you know what I mean? There's just like all these really interesting things that I did not know about this guy. And I just feel like comics really need to embrace that stuff now. So, and I think it's important because, you know, not only is it a valuable lesson for like, you know, if you're an adolescent growing up with the stuff, but also it teaches you that like, oh, we've always been here. Like, and so, yeah, that's like my big thing right now. Like, I feel that the importance of mythology and maintaining that mythology. And I think comics are kind of lost a step doing that.
Yeah.
It's aggravating on multiple points because it's a piece of history that I think they can actually hang their hat on, that they were on the forefront of a lot of things. Rachel Pollack, who's on that top, was a transgender writer long before you know, anyone else. And we kind of ignore that in favor of, you know, press releases. Well, but just getting the attention today. But the other side effect is, you know, we also take the work out of print, and so, you know, she's not getting a royalty check. I mean, that's you're not only are you kind of ignoring the people in the past, you're also taking their work out of print, so they don't get paid for what they did in the past, and it just sucks.
Yeah, you know, she's also a cancer survivor too, and you know, she could have used a little bit of money, especially with them doing this TV show. You would think maybe you put her work out instead of not having floppies out while the show's out, and coming up with collections that don't mirror what's going on in the show. Just very weird stuff. But I mean, it's also true with you know, how they've treated Maddie Blostein, you know, who's also passed, or Caitlin R. Kiernan. I mean, you know, the list goes on and on. Yeah, I don't know. It's very weird.
That's the hypocrisy of this industry, though. And that why a lot of the screaming and the shouting goes on. It like I said, it makes me very angry because there's a lot of people in the past who did a lot of important things that we're supposed to just ignore in favor of the last 2 to 3 years. And it's that whole phrase, "We stand on the shoulders of giants," just feels like a complete empty comment.
Yeah. I mean, I used to pull my hair out, man, like, because like I would hear people make these, like people. It's interesting to me because people want so desperately for comics to be backwards, like they want it to be this backwards medium that just hasn't like evolved, like hasn't done anything progressive. Like they're so desperate for it to be that way, and it's really interesting to me because this is, and like I want to be clear, this is not an indication that comics can't do better. Because I know that's the first argument. People was like, "Oh,
everyone can always do better. Always, you can always improve yourself. There's always opportunities to improve.
Always. But I want to point out that Hollywood and television have far worse track records than comic books. Like any day of the week, still to this day, you know. Like I just saw a video of Tiffany Haddish like crying her eyeballs out because like she was the first Black woman to win a Grammy in like in like 20 something years for like a comedy album. You know what I mean? Like I just, and like I'm sitting there, I'm like, look, every medium can do better, but like to sit here and act like comic books are like backwards, like it just
bugs me. I hate that cartoon strip that floats around by the people in chat will remember, that likes to portray the shops and the people who would buy the comics and the comics themselves just super gross. 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's like, okay, 30 years ago, we had all kinds of, you had Wheezy doing books. Sure. You had Rachel Pollack on there. You just had so many people putting out content. It just makes me crazy. As Dobson. Yeah, Dobson. It's the biggest revisionist crap in the world. And he doesn't know what he's talking about.
But I mean, even you look at some of the other people that worked on these books, like Glynis Oliver, Glynis Ween, she colored the majority of Uncanny X-Men between issues 100 and 300.
Yeah.
That was a woman working in comics at the time. During, she colored, I think, most of Roger Stern's Amazing Spider-Man run, she colored a lot of Fantastic Four. I think it was the John Byrne run. It might have been mostly Marv's stuff, but yeah, she was a pivotal person in Bronze Age comics. Len Varley, that's a woman who colored one of the highest selling Batman stories of all time. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it is a frustration point. We'll hit some. We'll get you something else to be frustrated about, but it is something. It's one of the reasons why I've been very thankful to Joe for all his help in setting up some of these interviews and doing these things. I want to keep shining a spotlight on some of these creators who are amazing and did amazing things and have great stories to tell. And maybe we'll have another one very soon when I can finish editing it.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. And we'll definitely have Rachel on at some point. That I can make happen. I'd love to talk to Ivan Velez. I think he's great. I've talked to him before. I think, that might, can't make any guarantees, but if he's willing, I'd love to talk to him. An openly gay Hispanic man writing Ghost Rider in the 90s, that they won't reprint any of his stuff.
Actually, if I could like co-sign and maybe drop some more names,
please.
The artist on my comic Fight of the Century. He's one of those guys who learned drawing from Will Portacio, and I don't think people recognize this, but Will Portacio basically took his craft, went back to the Philippines, and birthed like a whole generation of like artists that are currently working in comics right now. You know what I mean? Like there's just so many layers to this. Like, we of course could state the obvious, as Jim Lee is the head of DC right now, right? Fabian Nicieza was writing X-Men in the 90s. And like, the most obvious thing that I think people love to gloss over is that, look, the most popular comic, like consistently from like the late 80s, I want to say from maybe the mid 80s to about the early 2000s, was the X-Men. And Storm was the leader. It's a book about diversity. It's a book about race. It's about a book about persecution and social issues. Like, they tackled the AIDS epidemic. Like, you know what I mean? Like they tackled religious religious conversion therapy, like, you know what I mean? Like they've done all these things, and it's you know, I think I said Storm was the leader of the team.
Yeah.
Like, and
well, you had Storm as the leader of the X-Men. You had Monica Rambeau as the leader of the Avengers.
yeah,
During that same period, and that was cool, and I think it does explain a little bit. I'm not saying this everybody, but so when you hear comic fans who are maybe a little older who collected during this time getting a little bit salty at being kind of reprimanded for these comics, that one of the reasons they're getting salty is because they were buying this stuff, supporting this industry long time ago, and I think it just makes it's crazy. So
yeah, and the nerve to kind of like jump back at them and like, you know, buck at them and like tell them like you know, you're backwards for that, or you're wrong because of this X, Y, and Z. It's like these people understand the history of these comics. Like they know the history of these comics. You know,
sure.
like I remember when there was an interview with Grant Morrison that was floating around a couple months ago about him being non-binary, and I sat there and read it, and I was like, no shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't even get me started. I mean, they were very openly queer out the gate. I mean, they basically talked about how Invisibles was inspired by doing a lot of drugs and drag and you know, all sorts of crazy stuff. And it's like, yeah, all these people who are like, I'm so excited that like Grant's out. It's like Grant was never in.
Yeah. Like,
what the hell are you talking about? Like, it's that stuff. You know, it drives me crazy. But I've also had, you know, people come to me, you know, like non-binary creators, for example, being like, oh, I'm going to put together a team and it's going to be all non-binary creators. And we're going to like put out like one of the first, like, you know, non-binary sort of like comics, you know, and this is in the past, like couple of years or so. And I've had to break it to them. I'm like, you're going to have to go talk to Linda Medley and steal their Eisners or something, because they were winning those almost 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
So,
well, and somebody that brought up Larry Hama as well. I mean, here's somebody who I think was responsible for bringing Martha Thomas's on to do. That's what she said, to do this Dakota North book in the 80s. I mean, there was a lot of good progress that was made there. It's I don't know. I'll just keep drinking this Everclear.
I mean, I don't know how long you want to talk about this.
Well, we'll hit something else. I think it is a topic we want to keep hitting, and because it gets me just angrier about it.
Oh no, for sure. I'm going to have to open up. I'm out of canned screwdrivers, but I do have. I don't know if you people knew this.
Well, you do that. I'll put this up for Jeff. So
they make Mike's harder lemonade.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's more hard.
Is it like 6% instead of 5% this time?
Yeah, it's 8.
Oh, okay.
You know, but you know, it's Party City.
I like how we can go from that very serious topic about how comics were promised not sleazy and stupid back in the 80s, and then we have this. So
there you go.
But I'll point out this is next week. So who are the pervs, huh? It wasn't the 80s. This is
right.
This is now, people. So
well, I mean, and you know, we talk about pervs. I mean, we joke about pervs, right? Like, but at the same time, you said what? What's that?
No, I'm just guys. Nothing wrong with it.
No. I mean, look, people are going to like what they like. I think that's ultimately always been my argument. Is like, you know, stop telling people to not like things.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
Like I'm just like, I'm so over that conversation. And it's interesting to me that, like, you know, it's this we have like two sides here. Well, we have two arguments here coming from the same camp, right? It's like the 90s were all bad girls comics, and everybody's disgusting and gross for liking them, right? And that same camp will sit there and like obsess over like you know, whether or not two characters are having sex and what kind of sex they're having in a comic book. You know what I mean? So it's just sort of like, it's just like you know, like it's like cast the first stone already. Like, what are you talking about?
Sure. I totally agree. Well, there you go, Jeff. We did this just for you. So there you have it. Poor guy. Here's something else to get pissed off about, because why not? On to a different topic.
Oh, boy.
So speaking of the past, what is this obsession with taking books that are just, they're comics, they came out quite some time ago, and then basically wanting to kind of dissect them into whatever the hell this is. I think I sent both of you this article where they do a relook at Batman Dark Knight Returns. Mm-hmm. And we come to the conclusion, we just, it's the strangest conclusions.
Yeah.
I don't know, like what's the value here in, like, we're trying to argue that old man Bruce Wayne in a fictional comic set in the future that came out more than 30 years ago is a tie to fascism. Why are we doing that?
Well, I mean, yeah, that whole thing about Batman being fascist is like, it's one of those things, like they have actually tackled this conversation head on in the comics, like, and not just recently because Twitter.
Yeah, many times,
like in the past, like they have tackled this comic about, and like, it's funny because I was actually talking about somebody else. My favorite Batman stories are the ones where he overreaches. Yeah. And Alfred and Robin are like, I'm sick of your shit, Bruce. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I love those stories because you can see it coming a mile away, and you know that he's like this, like, you can perceive him as a tragic figure, and that that, like, look, he's going to hit a wall eventually, and someone's going to have to call him out on this. And the comics have done that multiple times, but people always want to act like they invented fire, and it's like, you didn't invent fire, dude.
Well, I mean, exactly. And if your argument here is that Batman's wrong, and he's doing the wrong things, and his mission is wrong, and this is from Dark Knight Returns, he's fascism 101. And you go through this kind of long, involved argument that he's terrible. Mm-hmm. And then you want to conclude your argument by saying his mission is terrible, he is terrible. But by the way, he's more terrible because he only has one woman in his underground fascist army. What is the point there? Where
are you going with that? Yeah.
Yeah. Was he supposed to get 50 fascist women to be in his underground cave? Like, what the hell are you even talking about?
Yeah.
I also wasn't under the assumption that was all the people that were going to rebuild civilization.
Right, of course. Yeah.
They were all in that panel. They were that was it. Just right there. Yeah.
And, and again, it's like, it goes back to our previous conversation. It's that revisionist history, like that obsession with comics are backwards and I'm going to be the first to call them out. And, it's almost like, you almost kind of want to be like, all right, cool. Well, Frederick Wortham has your back, dude. Like, just lean all the way into like the Worthamness of your argument.
I mean, my God, just read the book or don't read the book. Just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I absolutely hate this approach to criticism. Like at 13, I got that the Dark Knight was satire. Like at 13 years old, I understood that the Dark Knight was mostly satire. So like adults not getting that is like, it's embarrassing to watch. And like, it's weird too, because I'm like they keep putting words into the creator's mouths. And I'm like, look, instead of like putting words into Frank Miller's mouth, read what he actually has said about Batman. There's a great interview with him and Tom King. Sorry, I'm getting worked up about this. There's a great interview with him, Tom King, Scott Snyder, and a couple other people from like I think it was like New York Comic Con several years ago, and like they're all saying like, Batman's tragic and he's dark and gritty and he's grim and blah blah blah. And Frank Miller and also Grant Morrison's pointed this out too, are like kind of like cuts through all this, and he's just like, well, I just thought he was an adventurer.
I mean, he gets in a giant like monster truck Batmobile and he fights a guy in the mud. Like, what are we talking about? Like,
right? It's like these people are just.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying these people are just like, it's like when people do this, when they start doing the Superman's fascist, Batman's fascist. Part of me blames Zack Snyder more for this because I think in recent
years, it is all Zack Snyder's fault. Screw you, Snyder. People.
A part of me kind of blames like that approach to like that treatment of the DC characters that like he has been doing for the last couple of years, but like it's just like this is just provocative term paper garbage. Like that's what I read. That's what it looks like when I read this. Like I'm like, this is just like you have to make you're in speech class and you have to make an argument for something you don't believe in. So you're just going to throw everything at the wall just to get that B-.
It's just, I mean, there's so many ways to go there. Reagan is also not alive as some kind of weird zombie in the future. ordering Superman around. This is all nonsense. But here's one for you, Joe. I thought you would appreciate this that I was able to dig up. This is a review of Sandman by Neil Gaiman, as we know, a fascist piece of work.
Yes.
Oh God.
Like, where do you even go with this?
Well, let's see here. It's gonna take me a second because that screwdriver's gone. Look at that.
Yeah. What?
Wow. So now, see, this is the thing. I'm like, I've said this before. Like, beware of those bedfellows. Like, beware of these bedfellows, yo, because they will come for you too. And I would assume that Neil Gaiman was an ally, but
Neil Gaiman is responsible for 2 of the 3 trans women that got jobs at DC in the 90s. Rachel Pollack and Caitlin R. Kiernan. He hired a lot of women, including Jill Thompson and Colleen Duran during his run on Sandman. Not to mention, he also worked with Malcolm Jones III, which a lot of people forget. A great inker, who's unfortunately we lost way too soon, but did incredible work and was not a white guy. So
I don't know. It's so peculiar to do this, and it feels completely destructive in every way. If we've moved on to canceling Neil Gaiman, I mean, maybe then it is just a joke. And to his point, it's Friday night. Why are we talking about this? You're not wrong.
I know. I'm sorry.
No. It's good stuff. I'm more than happy to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I see these things, sorry.
Oh, don't go into the Golden Age because he's right here. There's some crazy stuff back in the Golden Age.
No, yeah, of course, absolutely. No, but it's like it's weird because it's very strange to me. Like, people want to aggressively revise the history of these things, and I don't know. Whenever I read this stuff, like we were talking earlier about the people like to point fingers about the sexuality of characters in the 90s, but then they want to do these very vivid fan fictions or whatever. And look, there's nothing wrong with fan fiction, but at the same time, it's very strange to me that people want to aggressively sexualize these characters. And it's the same thing with this comment here. It's like, this says more about the writer of this line than it does about Neil Gaiman.
Oh, for sure.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's well, I'll stop torturing people with that. We can keep talking about, we can look at some covers that aren't stupid by people who aren't writing stuff that's dumb. I don't know. These reviews, it feels like a contest to see who can come up with the dumbest take. Although Joe, you have an art for figuring out a way that you know how to make the outrage work for anything.
Oh yeah, no, it's very easy. You can always outwoke someone. It's not that hard. It is a fun game to play with friends.
Yeah.
I really hate that woke has entered the common vernacular.
I'm with you.
It's it used to be. I'll be honest with you. It's something that Black people used to say to each other, and it meant something. and now it's it's turned into look. I'll be honest with you again. And the minute white people grabbed onto it on Twitter, it became a parody of itself. I'll be completely and totally honest with you about that. And it's just again, it's just everything's tainted.
Just stop with this craziness.
And I'm not even drinking.
So there's Rhodey as Iron Man right there. He's lost his glove, so he's clearly helpless.
Yep.
That that's kind of an ominous cover of the sneaky guy in that's Whiplash. I believe it's Whiplash. Maybe not actually. Mm-hmm. I know I've read this comic, but I cannot remember who the villain was. But
this early 80s. Yeah, it's a black Spider-Man costume. So yeah. This is the mid 80s, mid to late 80s.
Yeah, I do like that. Without your gloves, Iron Man, you're screwed. That's fun stuff. But I like that this was Star Wars was having a fun run. We were not afraid of fat shaming with Spider-Man. We have Godzilla just kicking the shit out of the Avengers. So lots of good stuff Yeah.
But I mean, they were so into fat shaming. There was also, what was that character? The slug.
Yeah.
Remember that guy who was just the Blob again, but fatter.
But that's the thing, right? Like for every example of like, fat shaming that you could find in one of these comics, right? You could find the opposite. Like I remember was the kid, Ollie Osnick, who was like the I think I'm saying his name right, who was like the overweight kid who befriended Spider-Man and then like kind of took to the streets with his Dr. Octopus's tentacles or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's I guess my point is like you can find an example to support any argument through the history of comics because comics have been around for a long time and there's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, but also it's like I wouldn't take it. I don't read comics like this and then get a tear in my eye and be like, that could have been me. Mm-hmm. That he was mocking or something. I don't.
Well, because you don't want a pair of spandex and then run around the Manhattan trying to rob banks. So, at least as far as I know,
I haven't yet.
Okay,
I don't like to deal in absolutes. So.
Let's get more screwdrivers in, and we'll see what happens. So.
There we go.
Yeah. No, anyway, but this is a fun run. It's X-Men was starting its some pretty good things. I will next week I'll just put 4 covers up at the time so they're bigger because a lot of the details in the captions are pretty cool. But yeah, no, this is a fun time. How about we are getting a new Man-Thing here next week? I think Steve Orlando's first issue drops.
That's right. Yeah. It's the the Avengers, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Man-Thing and the Avengers. Eventually, Man-Thing and the X-Men. I think the Man-Thing's kind of working his way through the whole Marvel universe at some point.
Yeah.
Sound right. I believe that's Mike Zeck doing Master of Kung Fu there, and
that's nice. Yeah,
there we go.
That is total bait and switch with Star Wars. She did not fight Vader like this. That scene did not happen the way that is there.
I'm glad they finally got a third law in that universe, though.
Yes, they had the 2, and then there's one more.
Yeah.
Kazar, there's some Dynamite covers before there was Dynamite.
There we go.
It's like 80s Dynamite.
Yeah. Again, here's another example. Sorry, I keep jumping back to this, but like,
no, please.
I remember when right around the time of the Netflix Iron Fist show, everybody was up in arms. Like, how dare they make a white guy a martial arts master? And like, this is so typical, et cetera. And it's like, context matters, guys. Like, you have to understand that, first of all, Shang-Chi predates Iron Fist in the comic books. But then on top of that, you also have to understand what was popular at the time and why. And like, none of these things were created in a vacuum. Like, straight up, Shang-Chi was Bruce Lee, and Danny was Iron Fist was David Carradine. Like, Luke Cage was Fred Williamson, or or any number of the other blaxploitation stars. Pam Grier was Misty Knight. Like, these things were a response to things that were going on in the culture at the time. And it's like to blame the creators or the company, or even the company, I feel like mostly they're targeting the creators when they do stuff like this. But to blame the creators for being responsive to the culture, imagine what it's going to look like 20 years from now when they're being responsive to the culture now.
I don't think a lot of people understand how poorly some of their stances are going to have aged.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
It's and fast too. I don't think it's not going to be another 10 years. It's going to be much faster than that. But
I believe the kids call it showing your whole ass.
Yes. That's exactly what that is. Yes. So he's pointing out that Defenders cover is pretty crazy, right? I mean, that's
wild. What is that? What's going on here?
I mean, Ghost Rider is he's guest starring, but there's some really, really nice stuff. I mean, and then there's Dazzler as well, the Terror Tank.
Was the Electric Company still a thing at this time?
Was what? Oh, the what?
Yeah, I'm seeing the Spidey. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the Spidey Super Stories, and it says Marvel Comics and the Electric Company. I'm like, the Electric Company was still a thing at this time?
Oh yeah. This would this would either be late 70s, early 80s, and they were absolutely still cranking that stuff out.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
Morgan Freeman and everything. Look at that.
I love it.
And that's great. I'm glad they really went all out with Dazzler, having her fight a tank thing.
A tank called the Terror Tank with the mystery of the blue shield.
Yeah, they really brought out all the A-listers to boost sales on Dazzler.
Well, together they spell the end of Dazzler. So,
well, I feel like God, Dazzler is also still like one of the only people that couldn't beat Doctor Doom in like her own comic.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they usually find a way, no matter how stupid it is. I mean, I think Moon Girl beat Doctor Doom at one point in her comic because you gotta.
Yeah.
But Dazzler failed a lot, and so did a lot of the early Captain Marvel comics as well. Like I was very, because people talk about how Chris Claremont did a really good job with Miss Marvel, and they're fine, but Miss Marvel was a mess. Like she had like 5 boyfriends over the course of 10 issues and was a
I mean, we've all been there
all the time. I mean, yeah, well, fair enough.
Yeah.
No slut shaming, Perch. No slut shaming.
No, it's fine. The comedy hit for me when she starts dating a guy called Sam Adams, and this is years before she would be revealed as an alcoholic. I mean, it's like, what are you doing? But
you know, it'd be great. Oh, somebody should do this. They should go back on those issues and be like, Sam Adams wasn't really a guy. It was just her alcoholism.
Yeah,
there we go.
She's just imagining it the whole time.
It's kind of like A Beautiful Mind or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there we go.
Maybe a little bit of Fight Club too in there. So like, you know, maybe she was just talking to a bottle of Sam Adams the whole time, and all the
yeah.
Were like,
that would be an amazing issue right there. Yeah, play your cards right, Joe. You might get a right the all new Dazzler. You could basically make your pitch. I haven't read any of the comic, but I've kind of always wanted to do it.
You know, I'll be real with you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I'd love to hear what you're going to be real with.
Well, no, I was just going to say, man, like I actually would love to take a crack at like some of these the Marvel music characters. I think I could use. I have an idea that I think would be really awesome for those characters. I think that like they're underutilized, and I think there's like something really cool you could do with them.
You have an idea. See, that's where you're wrong from the start. So if you want to get this pitch, you have to express that you know nothing about the characters whatsoever.
I had a Dazzler Max pitch I really want to make happen someday.
I'm sure half the chat would love to see that.
Dazzler Max. I think I still have some of the character concepts I got Danny Lucker to draw for me a while back.
Okay. You're talking about the mature line. For a second, I thought you were like Max, like Sam Keith. Like
no,
like a crossover.
I mean, it would basically be the same thing, but
yeah,
but just like insane, coked out Dazzler, like would just be a thing of beauty, because it's like at the time where Dazzler was happening, it's like the only place you're singing disco are like trashy gay dive bars in the 80s. That's where that's happening. So I'm like, you can have a lot of fun with that.
Everybody wants that. What happened to our bad? We need to do another bad pitch video.
We have the premise for the next bad pitch video. Okay. We just have to do it.
We got to line up. Yeah, we have to involve a third person. So if we can't get that going soon, we'll just have to do another one. Those are always
but we really do. It's been 2 months.
Yeah, it's a lot has changed.
So many worse ideas are now being pumped out. We got to catch up.
Yes, that's true. Switching over to DC for a moment. I mean, I love this All-Star Squadron run. I mean, this was a good run. I liked there's a lot of fun stuff on here. Mm-hmm. I do. Somebody's asking, did Superman straight up kill that guy? Which one? Like, Superman killed a lot of people, to be fair.
He really did. It's
if you go back to the 70s, like Superman would randomly just do all kinds of terrible things.
Or even the Golden Age. Like, you read some of those Golden Age action comics, and like it's like Superman threw that guy and he went like into the horizon, like he's dead.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm laughing so hard at that, but yeah. No, it's Superman would regularly, I mean, like he would punk Lois, but it was, I mean, it went to cruel. Like he had these very involved schemes to kind of teach her a lesson, but it was unclear what lesson he was teaching in the first place. And he seemed to have all these schemes lined up long before Lois did whatever he was trying to teach her a lesson on. Like he was just there to screw with her.
Yeah, it's It's very weird. Also, one thing that Martha Thomas has pointed out on our interview with Martha Thomas is right here on Comics by Perch. Check in the interviews playlist. Where Martha Thomas is brought up, she was like, I don't know why as a kid I didn't get annoyed how like Superboy didn't have to like hide his secret identity, but Supergirl did. Like for like years. Superman eventually let her have like come out as Supergirl, but for a while she was, you know, Superman's like secret weapon.
Yeah.
Which was silly because it was very
shame. Yeah.
It was goofy stuff. There was like that one, I forget which issue it was. I think Otto Binder wrote it because he wrote most of those early Supergirl stories. But it was just like, Supergirl, you have to help me. I was just digging through mountains and I accidentally dug close to kryptonite. It's like, what are you doing digging through mountains, Superman? It's a weird thing to be doing, buddy.
Just in the he did. You could easily do these bad pitches here. You don't need to be drunk. It helps, but you know.
No, it helps with everything.
Yeah,
not driving. It doesn't help with that, but other things. You know, I'm a more confident driver.
There you go. I make better decisions.
But no, it's but yeah. It's a lot of weird stuff, but yeah, definitely Dazzler pitches. I got when they did the that X-Men reboot, the all-women team with Brian Wood. That looks bad in hindsight.
Yeah.
When they did that, there was a blank cover of that, and I got a buddy of mine, Sean Von Gorman, to do a sketch. This was back when like Axel was still at Marvel. But I had him draw this whole elaborate thing on the blank cover of Dazzler calling the X office trying to get in on the team because she wasn't in it. And so I have this whole nice, like, colored cover of her calling Nick Lowe and Axel. And then it cuts to Nick Lowe going like, Axel, she wants to be on the X-Men team. And he's just like, tell her I'm not here. And it's that's my kind of humor. That's the kind of stuff I like to hang on my walls.
There you go. How about Dial H for Hero? Troy, did you ever read any of those?
You know, actually, so it's weird. Like Dial H for Hero is one of those books I've always been curious about. I always love the concept, and I have never actually read an issue. I think I picked up that was it a Keonis series that came out like a few years ago. I think I read the first issue, and I never followed back up with it. I don't know what it is. I think it was like Brian K. Vaughan do one, and didn't J. Michael Straczynski do one at one point or something?
There were some bigger names in there, and it was people in the chat are pointing out. I was getting it. You guys are too. I give you butts. You give me more time for Dial H for Hero. It was a good way to engage with the fans because there was that feeling, at least during this era, that the fans would bring in ideas. Those ideas would get represented in the comic, and it created this interesting feeling of engagement that I think would probably do better today than then. I mean, it was a way to I don't know. I think it was a good concept that they recently did that Dial H for Hero comic, but I don't know. It felt like they were trying to be meta in what they were trying to pull off, and they kind of missed the value of the actual product.
I wonder if like Dial H for Hero now would be like somebody on social media like type something, and then they become like this become a superhero for a day, and all they do is smite people that like wrong them in their comment section.
Yeah, that would
probably be Dial H.
You just described like half the industry's fantasy right there. You see, the catch is that the next day it goes to your ideological opposite, and then revenge takes place. And
see,
eventually they learn they have to chill out, or everyone dies. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. What else we got here? All right. Oh, more Dazzler. There's Dazzler making out with Angel. Yeah.
Was Dazzler, like, I've always wondered about this. I guess it's the case, but was Dazzler really that popular in the 80s? Or were they just really trying to make it happen?
They were trying to make fetch happen. That's what was going on.
It was absolutely they were. Yeah. I mean, Shooter had an idea. I mean, Shooter had lots of good ideas. This one was not probably high on that list, but where they had a band that, I mean, they were going to put out an album, they were going to have a movie, and he was trying to get the triple play going with comics, music, and movies, and
I just did I just did an article about JLA Avengers, the crossover from 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing like kind of looking up stuff, and like I've been hearing a lot of like there seems to be this Jim Shooter was an all right guy revival.
Yep.
And like I mean, you know, he did interesting things. Like
Oh, he
you
did.
said,
He did a lot of good things.
Sure, absolutely.
But I like one thing that kind of stuck out for me. I was reading about it, is like he was the reason that the 1979 attempt to do JLA Avengers like kind of like just went to crap. Like the whole thing fell apart after 21 pages of George Perez drawing, and like every now and then it's interesting. Like I'll get these long stretches where I keep hearing Jim Shooter's name, and people are like, "Oh, you know, Jim Shooter's great. There should be more editors like. There should be more editors like him." And then I'll read that one thing where I'm like, "This is why people hate him."
Yeah, but there's some inconsistency here too. Which, if we get a chance, if we get a chance to talk to Jim, I think would be interesting because, on the one hand, awesome, but on the one hand, there's this idea that Jim was all about clear storytelling over fantastical art over and over again, and that's really been hammered down. Mm-hmm. That Walt Simonson Thor run was all Shooter.
Yeah.
And that is not unfantastical art.
No, not at all.
So like it's interesting when you're looking through this stuff and you go, you know, it's not like, you know, people kind of said like, oh, this is bland, that's bland and stuff, but there was some wild stuff going on. I don't think a lot of people here would say John Byrne was a bland artist, you know?
No, not at all.
Not here. There's some people on Twitter who would make that case, but yeah,
of course, right? Yeah,
our new Robin artist. I think there's Shooters. I mean, I think Shooter did a lot of pretty amazing things. I think he was the right person for the right time for certainly for Marvel.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But nobody does everything perfect. I mean,
of course not.
You know, Shooter, I think, ran it like a business, and the company kind of needed to be run like a business. Arguably, businesses always kind of need to be run like a business, but not everything is perfect for anyone. Yeah.
I mean, I'll give him credit. Like, I mean, I remember as a kid, I remember reading like the story about how he changed the ending to the Dark Phoenix. I still think that was a smart move. Like, you can't have her commit genocide and get away with it. Like, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I think I feel like Byrne, in a fairly recent interview, even lamented that had the original ending gone through, it probably wouldn't have been the evergreen classic that it is.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think his his editor said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For that run, we should talk to that editor.
We should talk to that guy. What's his name?
Yeah.
We should do that.
Yeah. I don't know why we keep dropping that joke, but anyway,
I don't know either.
Nobody in the chat's picking up on any of this. It's
no. I don't know what it is actually.
We have our fun. I should interrupt. I should thank John Byrne. I know a lot of the new people who are at the channel right now are here because the She-Hulk video I did a few days ago showed up on his channel, and he engaged with it and talked about it a bit, and definitely that was a big thank you for the subscribers because a lot of people came from that route. So
wait, John Byrne has a YouTube?
Well, he's got a message board, and he's active on it. But he did send it. He did send a lot of people my way, so I have to say thank you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, that was actually. I gotta say, man, like one of the reasons I like Perch is because he is, he's smart. He knows what he's talking about, and like he just calls for logic and common sense, and he's able to produce receipts. And like I remember watching that She-Hulk video, and I was like, you perfectly encapsulated what was so frustrating to me about how people were talking about that Byrne run. And it leans into all the things you pointed out. Just people don't get that. Again, revisionist history. Like people don't understand when something is meant to be a joke or satirical, and it's making fun of the current landscape, which is what She-Hulk was doing.
It's the book is also a little bit, I think people misremember it slightly. I did I had my kids review it this morning. It's not nearly, I mean, like she was not running around in her underwear every page.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
I mean, it's the equivalent of every few months someone on Twitter finds out about that movie. Why of course I'm blanking on it right before I Tropic Thunder.
Oh yeah.
It's every few months someone finds out about Tropic Thunder and loses their shit over Robert Downey Jr. in it.
Yeah,
every few months.
And you know what's funny? I feel like most black people find that hilarious. I actually saw a meme.
Yeah.
I actually saw a meme the other day that was it was actually along the lines if Iron Man was recast as a black person. I think it was on the heels of the recent Superman announcement.
Yeah.
And someone said if Iron Man was recast as a black person, who would play him? And this is Black Twitter, mind you. And someone underneath goes, Robert Downey Jr. And then they produced a picture of Tropic Thunder.
That's amazing.
I thought it was pretty funny. So
absolutely. Yeah, we got a team up here. Hey, this is Spider-Man and Captain America meeting the Scorpion. That's cool. I don't know what is going on with that thing in Human Torch and the guy in the pink and yellow jumpsuit holding is he going to put that face on the thing? I have not read this issue. Does anybody know what's going on there?
Yeah. Is that a Spider-Man Captain America team? Is that Frank Miller? That kind of looks like Frank Miller to me.
It might be. It very well might be. I don't remember Frank Miller doing Marvel team up with those two, but
yeah, I mean, he did do some Marvel team ups. He might have. Yeah. It's possible he only did the cover.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like it kind of looks like him, but I could be wrong.
I think there's Kazar with Shanna leaned over again. She seems to do that a lot.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. All right. And there's Kingpin, another fat guy in the Marvel universe. So
there you go.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Jeff had to go before he had multiple Green Lanterns. So what's going on with Batman here? He's
I've always loved that Legion cover. That's always been a favorite of mine.
Which one? The
one at the top left.
Ah, yes. Okay.
That's always been I love that cover. But that Batman cover that's a Jerry Conway detective issue where he fought Scarecrow.
Okay, well that makes sense then.
That was right at the beginning of his run. It was a really good issue.
Yeah, there were plenty. I mean, we had an odd week this week because it is the 5th week of the month, and so we saw some of these covers last time with that guy throwing the cage on Supergirl. I don't know why that's here again.
That one and the Green Lantern one, where I made the joke about how the nullifier will make it easier for people to consume Marvel TV shows.
Yes.
Or the de-evolution bomb or whatever, yeah. But yeah, that Batman and the Metal Men are they're just these background characters who've really stuck it out. People they have their own little cult following. It's cute.
Yeah. I like how Lois Lane is who everybody loves is basically about to kick the shit out of Metallo, who's got Batman completely helpless. It's
I think my brain registered that as Spider-Woman at first, and then I just realized
it's the butt, I think. Yeah. No, it's the red costume and the dark hair. I think there's but
I think that's it.
Yeah. It's probably not the butt. I don't know. The covers were very dynamic then. It seems this was not the era where they were hiring superstar artists to kind of try and make the covers really stand out. They were doing it just on their own.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this is a lost art. Like, I think this is something that, I just comics covers should be like billboards for your comic, for what's inside the book. I mean, sometimes they mislead you, like you pointed out with that Star Wars thing, but even still, that's still at least interesting. At least makes you want to pick up the book and be like, Leia's shooting Darth Vader. What is the third law? Let's find out. I love that. I miss that carny aspect of like comic book covers.
Yeah, me too. I think they put more effort into it, and a lot of these things would make great posters and everything else. But it's not as there's just something missing in the whole thing. So I don't know. I think we got one more. I think this is the last one.
Okay.
Out here, this is I think this issue of the X-Men in the Circus was kind of when they reprinted the Dark Phoenix saga. A lot of people were, I think it was starting with this for a while. It would start with this issue in the trade. It was very confusing why.
That was a weird issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, when it really picked up steam, and you got to read runs, like whole runs. You can't really pick and choose these things, or you don't get the full flavor of what's going on. But it was really around, I want to say, like 125-ish when you start getting to like the Proteus stuff, that I think a lot, like, you had some of the subplots coming together, and Byrne was like firing at all cylinders by then. That was like, that's when I was like, okay, this is legit. But back at around 111, it was still kind of like, all right, I guess you can do that.
I recently, well, no, not even recently. Actually, this was like years ago. I worked at a comic shop, and they got a copy of the X-Men omnibus, which was basically like everything from Giant Size to
like it's like 129 or something like that. Yeah,
like it cuts off in the middle of the Dark Phoenix saga, if I remember correctly. Yeah,
it does.
It's like, you bastards. But like reading those old Cockrum ones, like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, they weren't fully formed, but like there was a lot of really interesting thing. Like, there was like a momentum. That's what it was. There was a momentum that the book kind of had, and you can see that as you're reading it, and like in reprints, like, and then finally when you get to that Byrne, like I said, probably Prometheus. It's just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, no, it's really great by then. But yeah, no, I still like Cockrum. I like him on Legion. I like him on X-Men. But no, all that stuff is that's good. That's a Roger Stern Avengers, right? Or no, this is way earlier.
No, this is
I was thinking like 272. I'm like, no. So yeah, no, this is God, who was on Avengers at 172? Was that? This was that's got to be right around the Korvac saga, like around there, right? Like,
this would be. Let's see, who would,
because obviously Beast is on the team, so
let's see, George Perez is doing the code. This would be this would be Jim Shooter writing during this time period.
Okay, so it was probably around the Korvac saga over there.
Yeah. I think they were doing subplots to set that up. And as I recall, they were doing some with Ultron around that time as well.
Oh yeah, and you had the Bride of Ultron, and all that fun stuff.
People in the chat were saying this way before I got my memory working. I just need to read that. So
yeah.
Was that Jocasta? Was the Bride of Ultron Jocasta?
Yeah, during this.
Yeah. Okay,
I get the Living Monolith was. It got a bunch of stuff around this time period. I always liked this. So Fantastic Four. I mean, this is during Byrne's run of that series. This is. I like that they use some villains that the team hadn't really engaged with. Yeah. You guys both remember the Acts of Vengeance storyline, right?
Yeah.
Barely. I don't think I quite gotten into comics at that point.
Yeah.
It really felt like the opposite of what we have today, where they were putting a lot of effort on villains, and you had the villains kind of come up with this plan of, hey, are the heroes that we normally fight kind of know our MO, so we're going to switch.
Right. Yeah. And, that's right. They didn't exchange.
Yeah, and I thought that was always very clever, but it wound up elevating the villains, I thought, pretty nicely. And but today, if they tried to do something similar, I mean, I don't even know if you'd have enough villains to make it a real threat. But.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that Marvel used to excel at. I kind of feel like,
for sure.
I actually think the MCU does this very well, which is like they kind of give you glimpses into, well, what if this person interacted with this person? Like, what would you get out of that? What if this person interacted with that person? What would you get out of that? I think that's what Marvel does. Marvel used to do very well back in the day. So
yeah.
It's there's a lot of fun stuff, and yes, there are tentacles. There are new defenders, you pervs, but yeah.
Sorry, I'm not seeing. I can't see the live chat, so I'm not sure what's going on over there. I'm going to open up my YouTube screen just.
People are having a fun time. It's yeah. My sub show. Well, I mean, I don't know who gives their accurate age to YouTube there, Mumbles, but no, it's mostly it's younger than that. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. Hey, thank you again for this. Joe mentioned earlier, but 15,000 is nuts. So really appreciate it. We hit 10,000 like in December just a little bit more
before New Year's. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's crazy. So what in the hell are you thinking is the answer. So thank you, everybody. I mean it. It's not just the Everclear talking. It's well, it's mostly the Everclear talking, actually.
There you go.
Yeah. But Joe, obviously you've been a huge help throughout.
Oh, thank you.
Time. I mean, I'm hoping for the day I can just go on vacation. You can take the whole thing, and then you can do 3 videos a day and see how that. I like
just
that.
Hijack your channel at some point and just
Perfect.
be like, yeah, there we go.
We're just going to inherit. You can just move it on over, but we'll continue to see what they. So next week, I'm going to stop dealing with that guy because he's annoying. I will put up some more modern comics, yes, for sure. And we have this interview with Jim Salicrup that Joe was referring to that nobody picked up on. That's a really cool story. Now, what for people who don't know that name, how should people remember him?
I mean, he worked at Marvel for 20 years, from 1972 to 1992. He edited everything from the Dark Phoenix saga, Roger Stern, John Burns, Captain America. He did editing stints on Iron Man, Thor, Avengers. He also he did some of Burns' Fantastic Four as well. We talk about that. He's probably best known for being the editor on Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man. He's the one who basically picked Todd to take over on Amazing with David McElhenney. Yeah. And then he would go on to be the editor-in-chief of Topps Comics. And then currently he's the editor of Paper Cuts Comics, which puts out the American translated adaptations of Asterix, which Perch has made videos about Asterix in the past. You can check it out at Comics by Perch, search Asterix. And, the Smurfs and other things, which was funny for me because as a kid, I grew up watching the Smurfs, and I went back and read his, Spider-Man later. And when he was doing Spider-Man, I was probably watching the Smurfs or just stopped watching the Smurfs. And now I'm an adult and he's working on the Smurfs. It's just funny how these things work.
It's funny. I definitely think you should check this out. I've got to figure out what to do. So maybe some people in the chat can give me some advice here. I'm editing this thing through. We talked for over 3 hours. And it's great, but what would everybody like to? Would you prefer we break it into 2? Should we just have 1 3-hour? What would you do, Troy?
I mean, I guess it's a little different because I work for a company. I think typically when we do long interviews, we just do it all in one sitting.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But now you got me thinking. Maybe we should start doing things in parts. Actually, no, I take that back. I did a John Romita and a Garth Ennis one, and that's in 3 parts. So. Maybe that's worth it. Maybe that's something you should consider.
Yeah, it might be easier for people to read it.
I'm curious because the only thing that makes me think maybe it's better to do it in one go is the views for the second part are always lower.
That's true. Yeah,
and the problem is the second part is when he's like talking about Spider-Man and all that stuff, and it gets really exciting. So I'd feel bad because a lot of people would be like, I listened to an hour and a half and that was fine, and they won't listen to when he's like, and I was on TV talking about Spider-Man.
Yeah,
that's actually interesting because for us, I've noticed with the previews world, it's more along the lines of the first one doesn't get the most views, but the second and third do.
Oh,
so
that's
interesting. Cool. Yeah, it bounces around a little bit. So interesting.
Yeah, because we broke up Astonishing and Death of Cap, and the second parts have half the views of the first parts.
It's weird.
Which is a shame because especially I think the Death of Cap, both of them, we go into a lot of interesting stuff in the second half that people don't come back for.
I show my face and it's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's not true at all. But definitely check this out. He's an interesting guy. I mean, again, you're hearing from an editor at Marvel, who worked under a number of people, including Jim Shooter. He does talk about, being on Fantastic Four with Byrne, about the Dark Phoenix saga, about some of the decisions that were being made, people coming and going. He talks about getting a tour. Well, actually, here's the part that surprised me. I'm curious again, Troy, what you think, and Joe. He started working for Marvel at 15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And this is what Jim Shooter started working for DC at 14, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I think definitely hiring, but he's talking about 15 wanting to get into comics, being given a tour of the Marvel bullpen by John Romita Sr. and kind of running into Stan Lee and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's just crazy.
Wild. Yeah. No, the whole thing is crazy. He's got some great Stan stories, that we won't spoil here, but
yeah.
It's crazy when you do look back and you look at all the people who were writing and especially the writers in the 70s, Len Wein, Marv Wolfman, Jerry Conway, Paul Kupperberg, Jim. You look at these guys, a lot of them were in their late teens, early to mid 20s, writing some of the biggest properties ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's all the kind of stuff where it's that taking a step back, because a lot of people complain when like a 30-something is taking over writing a book now, and it's like they're like twice as old as people who were writing Spider-Man like in the 70s.
Well, I think so. Based on the comments here, we'll post it as one thing. I think that probably is better, but maybe I'm going to play with it. Maybe there's a way we can insert some chapters or some ways to bounce around, and I'll play with the format, because it is tough. It's hard to to listen to 3 hours. I get it, but he like Joe says, he has amazing stories talking about working with Todd at very early parts in his career. So yeah, it's worth listening to. And these like we talked about earlier with Troy. These are the people from the 80s and the 90s, 70s in some cases, that we should remember, because they were they did a lot of things. So it's worth
absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're always open for any kind of recommendations, people you want me to talk to. Send it my way, and
we do have a few people already sort of in the pipeline. We have some we're interviewing tomorrow, the next week. So some of these recommendations or things we look into might take a while. Obviously, whenever someone like Jim Shooter is available, we kind of have to go with, whatever that is. Tom DeFalco would be incredible, because not only just because he was an EIC at Marvel, he's a fairly prolific writer that everyone forgot was a writer, and had all of these glossed over runs. He had like a Spider-Man run. Yeah, he had a long Thor run. He was on Thor longer than Walt Simonson.
Yeah. Actually, my there's an issue of Spider-Man Unlimited that Perch did, and sorry,
I appreciate this recommendation. Yeah, we'll get on that. I mean, she's not busy in the book, so we might as well. Yeah,
but there's an issue of Spider-Man Unlimited. Actually, I have 2 Tom DeFalco stories, if you guys don't mind.
Please,
I would love them.
But yeah, there's an issue of Spider-Man Unlimited he did where Dr. Octopus is looking for the cure for AIDS. Do you guys remember this?
Oh my God, I forgot about that. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Like, and it's because like somebody, I think it was like somebody he went to school with. It's like one girl who was nice to him in college or something like that, had HIV or something along those lines. And so he was looking for a cure. And it was really interesting because Spider-Man is like hounding him nonstop. But of course, Spider-Man's not aware of what he's trying to do. He just knows, Dr. Octopus stole this isotope and he stole this blood plasma and I need to stop him. And then the tragic end of the story is that like he was trying to do good. And yeah, I just, again, like comics are something, man. Like comics really are something. Like they have tackled a lot of issues over the decades, and like not just superheroes, not just indies, just like they've been allowed to do a lot of interesting things.
Yeah.
My second Tom DeFalco story When I was a kid, I don't know if you guys remember Heroes Illustrated.
Mhm.
But it was a magazine that was supposed to be like a Wizard knockoff, and
Mhm.
they wrote an article that was was something along the lines of Marvel's new owners, who I think had just become Toy Biz or something like that. We're going to start messing with the content of the comics, and this. The interviewer had like some inside track and had some sort of insider at Marvel who knew X, Y, and Z about this and like all this other stuff. Mind you, I was like 13 years old or 14 years old at the time. I read this, I become very concerned. And so I wrote to Marvel about this because I told them that corporate interference is bad and you guys shouldn't you guys shouldn't at 13 you guys should sacrifice your artistic integrity for to appease the corporation, like you're doing great as is and blah blah blah. Months later, I got a letter from Tom DeFalco.
Oh wow.
And he basically said, "Hey kid, don't worry about it. This company's been owned by other companies before. Like we have all we have is we have the best interest of the fans at heart. And thank you for writing to us and writing such a great letter." And then he gave me, or the editorial also sent me a pay stub of X-Men Adventures, like one issue of X-Men Adventures that they had mailed off to me on top of that. It's sort of like a thank you for writing them. So Tom DeFalco is aces in my book.
Nice.
So, and actually, funny
That's
enough,
awesome.
years later, I was working at my comic shop, Alliance Comics and Games, in college, and while I was in college, and this woman comes in and she's like, "Oh, hey, my dad is speaking at the Smithsonian for this Spider-Man thing, and I wanted to get some of his comics." And I was like, "Who's your dad?" And she was like, "Tom DeFalco." And I was like, or her granddad, I'm sorry. And so, of course, I told her this story, and she kind of looked at me like, "Oh," like a little bit like I was like being a little weird, I guess. But but she was just kind of like taken aback by it, which was actually kind of funny. So yeah, Tom DeFalco, never met the guy, but he's all right in my book.
Nice.
There was a run of people who had higher level positions, DeFalco, Mark Grunwald, who had just amazing reputations with fans. I mean, they put a lot of themselves in investment to making sure that they had a good relationship with the customers, and I felt like they were good ambassadors. It feels like we're missing a little bit of that today.
Yeah,
It's just not dictating behavior, just to be an ambassador with your customer base, to maybe come down off the stage and intermingle with the common folk. That would be nice.
Yeah. No, I think that is something that like kind of is missing, like that voice. I think Todd McFarlane actually does a very good job of being that guy now.
He does. Yeah.
He's actually kind of always been like that, but I feel like he's kind of become the good guy of comics lately. Like in most recent years, I think he was trying to be the edgelord early on, like like in the early Spawn days. But now he's like, "Hey guys, come here and talk to me, and we'll hang out for a little bit, and I'll tell you about comics." He's fulfilling that almost Stan Lee role right now.
It's weird because this is also a guy who tried to screw Neil Gaiman out of his own intellectual property and lost in court.
Yeah.
So it's weird how he has been able to manage to be this good guy when it was like you literally tried to create an environment for creator rights, but it was your creator rights, not others, and you tried to screw a guy out of his own creation. Which was the reason you left Marvel, but he somehow managed to spin that into being this comics nice guy, because all the stories about him in the 90s are like he's a dick, and it's funny how that all kind of pans out.
No, I remember that beef. I remember the beef with Peter David in the back.
Oh
all
yeah.
that stuff. Yeah. But I mean, look, I think this goes back to some of what we were talking about earlier. Like, forgive and forget. Like, people are allowed to change.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
time. The older you get, like, your perspectives change on things. So who knows where he's at now?
Oh yeah, I have no skin in that game. I'm not.
Well, I would say I think I get along reasonably well with Todd. We're not on I don't have him in my speed dial here, but
Sure.
he knows who I am. I've met him many times, and you're right. He did go through a transition. I think in the 90s, especially in that early, he was rock star Todd.
Yeah.
And there's a very different person, but he has evolved. I do think he sees the importance of this evangelist role. I think for sure.
For sure. He's one of, like, I have a hard time. Like, when I think of Spider-Man to this day, I still really think of Todd and what Todd did for Spider-Man. It's just interesting how all this stuff happens, and yeah, he's definitely figured out his image and has really rehabilitated that image in a way that no one else in comics really has to the same degree. I think it's hard to find a lot of people like that. Like even people like John Byrne, who is not. He's not as spirited as he was years ago.
Okay, I see what you.
He still has this like, people will come out of the woodwork to be like, I heard you talked about John Byrne. Did you know that makes you a monster? And like, people do that for like people like him, but for Todd, they don't. It's all really a popularity contest.
It is.
And people try to mask that as having some level of moral superiority, but it's not.
Right. It's not. It's about who's in favor this week,
Yeah.
And that door, that opportunity to be in favor can swing wildly depending on how slow the news cycle is.
Absolutely.
It is an interest. I think that one of the things, and it's a good topic to kind of wrap up on, but I'm curious to get your comments on it. Again, thank you everybody who came to the chat tonight, and it's always a good, nice, easy conversation. That's what we're trying to do. Yes, I'm hearing all the people try and put some modern stuff in there as well, but it's, come on. It seems like comics has lost a little bit of the mentorship role. This kind of, we were reminded this with Jim Salicrup, and Glenn Greenwald said the same thing, that there would be these weekly kind of sessions, these discussions that would happen with the editorial team, with creators, kind of saying, hey, maybe you're getting popular. Here's a way to kind of steer your career so you don't become a maniac or keep your money, or that kind of thing. Why is that? Why did we lose that? Or did we? Is this a myth? Did we lose that? It seems like there's fewer people taking on that role.
I think it's. I mean, I could only kind of speculate, but I think that it's a generational thing. I think that we're in this weird phase now where I've heard people make this point before that comics used to be, you didn't necessarily want to get into comics, but you were good at them.
True.
And I think that and therefore you just kind of honed your craft in comics, and maybe you would move on to something else, or maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you would find a really cozy spot in comics, and then you would just tell your stories that way. But I've heard this argument before that a lot of very chill people kind of like entered comics at one point, and that was like during the 70s and 80s and 90s. And we kind of hit that rock star phase in the 90s, and then that bubble burst. And then we had this interesting quiet period where, I say quiet period, but it was like this, it was like a mix of like, there was a lot of edgelording going on in comics, but nobody was trying to be like mean to anybody. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't trying to hurt people. And I think that, and like that went on for like about during the 2000s, I'm talking about. And then somewhere around 2011, it just became about like breaking things.
Yeah.
And that's, I can't really think of any other way to put it. Like, I think that that's really what it is. And I don't want to be one of those people like those damn millennials. Look, I ride the fence. I was born in 1981. I am Generation X and a millennial, depending on who you ask. So I'm not going to sit here and shake my fist at a generation. But like, I do think that also we're past millennials at this point. So I don't know, but whatever. But like, I think that whatever's happening here, I think just culturally, and it's not even about age, really. I guess really, I said generational, but it's just culturally in comics, we just want to kick everything over and break it and just point fingers and yell at people and like just fight now. And so there's no room for anybody to be an ambassador, a goodwill ambassador of comics, because everybody's trying to like out mean each other. Like everyone's trying to be the mean girl in the room, and like that's everyone's clout chasing. That's the best way I could put it. Everyone's clout chasing in comics for scraps.
And it is for scraps. It all feels very destructive. You take a look back from a distance, and it's like you're fighting over nothing, and it's not helpful. And I have to believe a lot of these people who are coming into comics just need somebody to give them some good advice, if they'll take it, of course, but just kind of aim it a little bit. But that's the thing that keeps striking me from these conversations we've had, Joe and I don't know if you've felt the same, Joe, but you hear over and over in the 80s and the 90s, a lot of kind of taking people under their wing, trying to help, steering them one way or another. Sure, plenty of problems. It wasn't this idealized age, but the people I know who are in comics, there's none of that now.
Well, I think kind of piggybacking on some of what Troy was saying, we never recovered from the 90s crash. Yeah. I think a lot of the infrastructure that was in place, like Glenn talked about in our interview with him, of the like Mark Grunwald's like assistant editor course and things like that. Once they laid people off, once they were cutting jobs, cutting benefits, and shrinking, once they built back up after that, that infrastructure was gone and they never built it up again.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're dealing with.
No, I think that's a very good point. I was actually, as you were saying that, it just occurred to me that I think that maybe we're experiencing that tide shift, in like in the industry again, where I've noticed people have gotten quieter about a lot of things. Especially in the last, especially since March of 2020, a lot of people have gotten a lot more quieter about things because, I've said this with me and my co-host on Previous World Weekly, Ashton. Like we said this before, once you've once you've like lived through a pandemic, like a lot of the stuff that people were arguing about prior to this just kind of seems stupid, And I'm hoping that that's something that's going to permeate the entire industry now, because I've noticed that it's people are putting the guns down because everyone's hunkering down. And I think that's I think we're going to see a sea change in terms of people's attitudes and also the type of people that get into comics, because I feel like we had a stretch there where the lie was that you could come in here and then you get a Hollywood deal. You know what I mean? And I think that what's happened here is that that generation or that wave of people are starting to get flushed out a bit. And I would probably blame a lot of what's going on these last couple of years on those type of people. Those type of people who are, again, the grift. The people who jump in and they want to rattle cages and make as much noise as humanly possible because they come from a clickbait generation or a clickbait culture, which has consumed us all over these last several years. And so that worked for a time, and it's not going to work anymore. At least I certainly hope it won't.
No, I think people realize at this point that the money is not there. The easy route into Hollywood is out there. Or for some of the people who did get the route into Hollywood realize that there wasn't $1 billion in that route. It was turns out it's tougher in there than you think.
Yep. Yeah. Or you think you're going to get a Hollywood deal, but even if you have a creator-owned comic, if your comic's in the hole, that money they might get for optioning in it, you're not going to get, because the publisher needs it to cover how far they went in the hole publishing your book.
Right.
So like there's a lot of stuff that happens and comes into play.
I also kind of think that I'm sorry, Perch, because I know you're trying to wrap up here.
No, it's no problems.
But like I've also kind of, and this is just a theory of mine, but we were talking about like how people want to accuse comics of being, want to like frame comics as like being backwards forever and ever, right? And I think some of that comes from being like almost jilted by the promise of making Hollywood money. Like, what I mean? Like getting accepted into Hollywood. And I say that because it's not even the people that have failed. But if you recall, like about maybe 10 years ago, a lot of celebrities were flooding into comics to do some vanity project that ultimately went nowhere, you know? And I think that that's also part of it, because I like a lot of the complaining about this industry that I hear a lot comes from the larger entertainment world. And I think that part of that is because like they also bought into this and it didn't pan out for them. It's sort of like, well, comics are garbage. We're back to that again. So
yeah, I mean, there's so many problems with that. I hate it so much. I mean, like, it turns into publishers over and over and over again refuse to stop making the same dumb decisions. J.J. Abrams' kid doing a Spider-Man comic was a financial disaster.
Absolutely.
They thought it was going to be big just because it was J.J. Abrams' son. It made absolutely no sense. And then, they put this book out. They definitely paid way too much, and they're not going to make their money back on that.
No, and they tied up an artist who they had, in theory, about to set off on a longer run on a book. So I think they heard another book by moving the artist around. That was a major mistake. Absolutely.
Yeah. And to acknowledge what Yule's saying there real quick, Tom Jane at Aftershock, that book was kicking around for about 4 years, and they fast-tracked it because they wanted something to build off on the Keanu Reeves announcements and all that.
We might as well add, so 3 things. We talked a little bit about the Falcon and Winter Soldier, so that's fine. Snyder Cut, we did watch. We talked about that a bit last week, but I don't know. Troy, did you watch the Snyder Cut?
Yeah, I did.
Did you like it?
No.
More like Snyder Uncut, am I right?
Yeah. I just did a stream. You guys can check it out. It's on Previous World right now. Where I got a bunch of my friends, and we kind of build it as filmmakers versus comic book nerds. But we're all kind of filmmakers and comic book nerds too. Talking about the Snyder Cut. And so I'll just real quick kind of say I don't dislike Zack Snyder, and I was actually really looking forward to his Justice League, because the reason for that was because I did not like Man of Steel. I still don't really like Man of Steel. I think that there's interesting things in it, but like there's also really dumb decisions that are made in that during the course of that story. But the thing that got me to come around was the Batman versus Superman Ultimate Cut. And watching how that movie was originally supposed to play out and how it made much more sense gave me hope that maybe there was something there for the Justice League Snyder Cut. And watching that movie last week, some parts of it are interesting, some parts of it are good, but the thing that I really did not like about it is, like, I think Batman comes off really dumb during the course of it and useless. And
Sure.
And Superman, I said this in our stream, but like the movie does this thing where, the argument is that Superman is too powerful, so he's not relatable, right? Like that's the argument over and over and over again. I don't agree with that. I've never agreed with that. But the movie kind of takes the perspective of, well, Superman's relatable because he's powerful, or Superman, or like, I'll dial that back. Superman's powerful. That's it. Like, you know what I mean? And the entire second half of the movie is kind of like built around this idea that Superman is powerful and we can't do anything without him, so we need him because he's powerful. And I kind of like, there's so many other interesting things you could have done with that angle. Like, you could have said Superman is powerful, but he's also going to inspire us and give us hope, but they didn't do that. Like, and then when he shows up, he's basically Hulk Hogan at the end of every WrestleMania match. And it's like, okay, I guess, and also like,
real quick, because I noticed that he's in the chat. So Jeffrey Haskell, I wanted to call you out. So thank you very much. You sent me a book, and it sucked when you sent me the book to my email. There was no way to say thank you. I couldn't figure out how to get back to you because it was just. But thank you very much. I will. I appreciate it. We'll read it with my kids. I was going to actually make mention of it. I know I mentioned it in a video I recorded that will probably be. I'll get around to converting like 5 years from now. But I thank you very much for that book, and we'll put some stuff up there for you. I really appreciate that. So sorry about that, Troy. I noticed you're in the chat. I want to say thanks.
No problem. But I mean, that's kind of like that's the short version, the shortest version I can give you here is like, and if you want to find out more, just like check out the Snyder Cut roundtable we did on Previews World yesterday. So
cool.
Definitely go check out Previews World,
Yes.
Troy. Like I said, it's a very good channel. They do good stuff over there.
Thanks.
I did do I'm doing these movie reviews with Ryan, who's done the 3 Superman films and Supergirl. We actually did the Snyder Cut before we went on the air here today, and
Nice.
so that will probably go out tomorrow. It's funny because Ryan, I mean, he doesn't read a lot of comics or close to none, so he has a very interesting take. He's funny, but he made a mistake in that he believed he wanted to do it. He wanted to do it thoroughly. So this week he watched the original film, the Joss Whedon expanded cut, and then the Snyder cut to prepare. And as he will say, that was a horrible mistake.
Well, actually, so the funny thing that I didn't get to say on that chat, I can say here is, I saw a lot of people pinpointing like, oh, first of all, you watch the 2017 movie, you know which scenes are directed by Joss Whedon, which scenes are directed by Zack Snyder.
Oh yeah.
But I remember when the movie came out, people were like, you can't tell the difference. Like, yes, you can. But like, interestingly enough, the things, and now that I've seen the movie without Snyder and the movie that like had Whedon stuff injected into it, Batman actually comes off smarter in the Whedon version than in the Zack Snyder version. And I feel like Superman comes off a little bit more charming in the Whedon version than the Zack Snyder version. And that's my take. That's just my take. Sure. It's interesting that like, I mean, ultimately, I think, anybody who thinks they know about film should just watch this and understand how powerful editing is. Because I think that's a big takeaway here. So,
yeah, watch A New Hope. Some of those rough cuts were really bad.
I think Ryan makes this point. I think it was a good one. It's now stuck with me, and so I'm curious what people think here as well. Is like you're not going to get more Zack Snyder films. They're not going to do his trilogy. Yeah. But if you're HBO, if you're a Warner, and you also have the problem, the actors have kind of scattered. You're probably not going to get many of them back. Ben Affleck's done. You're not going to get Ray Fisher back to do anything at this point, or he wouldn't want to anyway. It's just not going to happen. So if you were Warner Media, why wouldn't you grab your animation studio that does a lot of these pretty well done films for DC, get Zach to come in and finish his trilogy that way?
I mean, that's not a bad idea. Actually, I'm kind of curious if DC is going to do this because I saw they're doing like the Tim Burton Batman comics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd be kind of interested in seeing like a Snyderverse JLA run, or not JLA. Sorry, that's archaic now. Justice League run. Based off the Snyderverse. I think that would be kind of interesting to at least see where it may have gone.
Yeah. I would love to. I'd love to put it out. I don't know.
I think that's a good idea, but with the Batman '89 like Tim Burton stuff, I guess this means we'll finally get a Gina Davis Poison Ivy.
Oh dear God!
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Wow.
How about have either of you seen the Invincible series yet?
I haven't had time yet. I will.
Did it start already? I had no idea that it started.
It started today. Yeah.
Okay.
As for the drawings there, I mean, I have one face clearly when I draw these things, and it's all the same face. That's about it. So
hey, you and Jack Kirby.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, well, hey, Troy, thank you very much for joining us, and certainly all the people in the chat. Thank you, and thank you for helping me get to 15K, which a lot of that thanks should go to Joe. He's the brains of the operation.
Thank you.
But I hope you guys have a great weekend, and there's some good comics out there, and we'll see where it goes. I know I'm preparing some surprises for next week, so stay tuned for that.
Awesome.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.